we're live.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Offshore Live number 16 with a special guest today, former Point Pleasant Beach Mayor Stephen Reid. Good to have you, my friend.
Nick, it's great to be here. I'm a huge fan. I think I told you I just love watching your shows and just I'm impressed with you about how much history you know. You're a very young guy and you know it all, and you go way back and then seeing the racers that I see when they come to the town. Talk about some of their stories and their history. It just reminds me of like when I was growing up. You know, I grew up in Point Pleasant Beach. So, I mean, we had the Hennessy Grand Prix. I don't remember that. That was before my time, but I remember the Benihana Grand Prix for years. And my mother was a councilwoman at the time. And so she had the Benihana beauty pageant. So that was, I mean, this was the place to be. I mean, we had the parade. And I have a picture of on the corner of Bay and Arnold with my grandmother and grandfather waiting for the boats to come. So I've been going to the parades and getting involved. And years ago, and I tried to get them when I was a mayor, but we had the Anheuser-Busch horses.
Yep.
Came. That was fantastic. And one year we had Blue Angels. I mean, it was the place to be. I mean, usually on a weekend we may have 30,000 people, but I can guarantee you when the race came, it was 40 to 50,000 people, and it was just a lot of fun. Going to the pits, meeting the racers, and I think that's what I wanted to do. Bring it back. When I became mayor, I talked to my very good friend John Parks. And he's helps out with the Geico team, and we played sports together. And I was just talking to him before I came. I said, how to just ask him a couple of questions because he knows all the history. He's like you.
If you were friends with John Parks, then you were also friends with Scott Begovich?
No, but I mean I'm a huge fan of Scott, of course. I mean,
there's a couple of real Jersey boys there.
He was a quarterback.
Yeah, imagine that.
Yeah, no, I can't imagine it. And I had a chance to talk to him and talk about history. He said his first race was in Point Pleasant Beach. In his smaller boat, and
24 Pantera,
and it's still out there, I believe. Right?
It is right now. It's Coastal Boat Sales.
Oh, is that right?
Yep.
Okay, great. Yeah, because I remember being with him. He goes, "See that boat over there? That was my first boat." And I thought that was pretty amazing. But great guy, and just really great for racing. And people like him are just so much fun to be around because you can learn a lot. But great personalities. But Jimmy Casano, and I mean he just like your dad. You guys are all great. For the sport, but Jimmy with his Alex Anani boat and people signing it. It was just great for our town. It's still great for our town. We'll always have that. The mayor now still wants it, and he's a big supporter. So I'm really excited about it. And when I grew up, we had the races, but we were just talking earlier. The races were totally different. They started in Manasquan, went down to Seaside, then out to Long Island, and then back, and you never really saw them. They were so far away. So now the new format, the OPA format, you're right by the ocean, so everyone can see you. And so there's people all lined up from Point Pleasant Beach all the way down to Bay Head, that's the turn number one. And of course, the first year, I'll never forget watching the boats be put in. And then, of course, we had to have a couple drinks before we went to the inlet to see you guys come out. And I could not believe how many people were there. I mean, there was thousands, and I was just blown away by it. I just thought it was really, really something.
What's interesting is, and I want to go back to the Benihana era, but what's interesting about now is up until this year, we had always ran the race early in the summer.
Yeah.
Like in May or, and so we'd usually run the risk of having some off weather.
Yeah.
And I can remember races during your tenure there where it would be raining, it would be cold, and there would still be a packed beach.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is for years we would do this race, and what we would always get back from the city or the sponsors or whoever it may be would say, "Oh, well, those people would have been there anyway." And I would, and now I would question that because we've run that race in some not ideal conditions, and that beach is still full.
Yeah, no, you're right. And the reason why I wanted it, and dealing with your father Smitty, was that it was always a week before Memorial Day weekend. Okay, so in my mind as a mayor, that was a kickoff for my town. Okay, so that was going to help the downtown, that was going to help the hotels, help the boardwalk. It was really about really boosting, the town's economy and really getting people there. And believe me, when you talk to business owners, is like, hey, you having a good year? No, I'm having a horrible year. Everyone's having a horrible year, but they're not really having a horrible year.
It's always a horrible year.
So when I went to this one person who did very, very well, I said, look at all those thousands of people here, drink and having a great time. They go, they would have been here anyway. I said, no, they wouldn't have. It was, cause especially the first year we did it, as you know, if you remember, it was really cold and rainy before the race, and then it was fine, and then after the race was over, it started raining again. So, I mean, no, the people wouldn't have been there. But when I was out promoting this race, when I tell you I was in radio shows, TV shows, the people, they were like, when I was a kid, I used to go there all the time. I'm coming, and that's it. People had so many great memories about the races, so that's why they were coming, and they're going to continue to come. And now, in the summer this year, I think it was because of the pandemic and trying to fit us in. But I always like it before the summer.
Yeah, I think it works out better that way for the lot. You get a town like Point Pleasant Beach, which we tend to see a lot as we travel the schedule. Most places we go, that's exactly what we are, is a little bit of a boost for the economy. And I wanted to ask you kind of how that works.
Well, I'm going to say you're a little bit more than a boost, and I'll explain how that works. I mean, when we have Friday night and we're all downtown and all the boats are downtown, well, people are not just coming from Point Pleasant Beach. They're really coming from all over. And now they're going to come and meet the racers and check out the boats. And some kids go into boats. And then afterwards, they're going into shops, or they're going to have dinner and drinks and things like that. And those people probably would not be there. They definitely wouldn't be there. And then later on, they're on the boardwalk watching the race, or they're in the bars and restaurants before the race and then after the race. So no, you bring a lot to it. And then people, they want to come and they bring their families down, and they're in hotels and motels in our town, and maybe they're renting a house for a weekend or something like that. So no, they're coming in and they're spending a certain amount of money. And as towns, politicians always worry about how much money's coming in. Well, they're also using, in our town, we charge for parking in some areas. So that's for us, that's revenue that we wouldn't have got, that weekend probably. So no, it's a nice bump, and I wish more people, public officials would realize that, and businesses would realize that, because if it's marketed properly, it could be a real boost to your town.
Yeah, and a couple months ago, I had called you and asked you for help with something we were working on up in Michigan, and I ran into sort of the same issue, where it was more of a, and I guess maybe they didn't go about it the right way, or maybe they did and it just didn't work out right, but they were looking to do that race in the middle of the summer, and the township kicked it back to us as, these people are going to be here anyway. You're not selling me on this. And so I asked you for your help there. And it's so good to have somebody like you who's able to explain those ins and outs. Because
anytime.
You see these economic impacts come out, right, from some of these races we go to. One that comes to mind is Fort Myers. Came in at over $20 million injected into the economy. Yeah. And we put those studies out publicly. And when we do that with the hopes that some of these places that, not that we have a hard time getting in the door anymore. I mean, we have a pretty refined product now. So if it's going to work, it's going to work. But we run into a lot of resistance. A lot of times we run into these, overtime bills for the police officers, the fire departments, the ambulances, and we get a lot of pushback there. Is that something that kind of comes down from your position, or is that something that you do it's situational by town?
Yeah, well, listen, the bottom line is those police officers are going to be working anyway, so maybe we'll have some other police officers on, so that's okay. I mean, sometimes you got to pay to get, right? So just like OPA, the people who, from Tony Potoff and her husband and all the different volunteers, it's amazing how many people want to volunteer. So our first aid is all volunteer, our fire all volunteer. They love that they're there, they love that they're out in the boats. They the dive team is ready. The firemen are ready. The first aid is ready. They love that, and our police officers love that, and so if you have a good relationship with the town, you just work that out. And all of the OPA people that I've ever dealt with, they're so good. They don't really. They say, hey, we'll take care of it, and you don't have to pay them well, they don't get paid, but they're volunteers, and everything really runs smoothly from the parking of the boats downtown to the parking in the pits, and then lowering them in the water and getting them out of the water. Everyone just wants to be a team player, but I think you need to go back to the Michigan people, say, okay, just tell me when your downtime is, because maybe they're right. Hey, they're going to be here anyway. Now you don't want that. I mean, if you got thousands of people and they only have a certain amount of police and everything else, that could be a real struggle. Okay, so find out. Maybe early May, maybe September, October. It's still nice weather, September, October. So maybe that's a time that you guys can maybe work in there.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things. I mean, we have those sites come and go a lot in the off season. You get a lot of, like, for instance, we got a call down in Philadelphia. Smitty and I went down and looked at the site right on the river there on the waterfront in Philadelphia, and they really done a nice job kind of redoing that area. It's by the Dave and Buster's there by the bridge. It's beautiful. But you go down there, you spend a day walking around, you lay out the pits, you kind of go through the costs and stuff like that, and then you never hear from them again.
All right, so are you working with the Philadelphia people?
Yes.
All right. Well, let's forget that. Let's keep it in New Jersey. Let's work with the people from Camden. Right. They have a great aquarium down there. They have a great I forget what the stadium, BB&T Stadium now. I forget who was just playing. I think maybe James Taylor was just down there. I mean, they've done a really nice. They're doing a lot of work and put a lot of money into that area down there.
Yeah, they have.
And I got to tell you something. Having a race right there on the river on the New Jersey side. We'll talk to the governor. We'll talk to the people. And
are you aware that's where we started?
No, I'm not aware.
See that picture right there?
Oh yeah,
that's the battleship.
That is the battleship.
Not our very first race, and not for OPA, by the way. I should clear that up, but for Smitty and the gang now. One of our first successful new ventures. See, when we took it over, Point Pleasant was still there, Seaside was still there. But that was the only two. So Camden was our first kind of expansion, and it was really cool. They let us do the drivers' meetings in the war room in the ship, and
that is cool.
It was unbelievable, and we had such a great time. The only thing the downside of it was there's a lot of stuff that floats down that river.
Oh,
you get a rainstorm or something leading up to it, and that happens. But that's what are you gonna do? That's Mother Nature.
Well, but I tell you,
that's our roots.
I'd love to talk to you and Smitty about it. Maybe going back and going back there because that's a wide open river, and it would be great to have all of New Jersey from the governor down, supporting something like this. And so, it's working here in Point Beach, and maybe it'll work out there too. Again, maybe we can go back there.
I think it'll work wherever they'll have us. And it's an interesting thing. And obviously you're aware of it, and I wanted to go back to this. The sport is evolving day by day. It has since its inception. But now you were a fan going back to the Hennessy was short of 80. So in the 80s you had the Benihana. Now when you were coming around to the Benihana races, what stuck out to you that really hooked you, that made you a fan?
Well, the crowds alone was amazing. The boats were amazing, and the personalities. Rocky Aoki was coming to your town, right? And then you had the Blue Angels, and then you had the Anheuser-Busch. So it was the whole thing. It was the whole excitement of it. The noise, of course, is I think what's everything from motorcycles to boats. It's just a great sound. Really exciting. So when you're a kid, you're hanging out and you're watching all this stuff, and it's fun, and then like the speed alone is fun. And again, I loved it when the boats were off the ocean. Now they're so close, so people are really going to really love it. But when I was a junior in high school, like I said, my mother was a councilwoman, right? So the chief of police said, "Hey, Steve, you got maybe like 10 guys that can hang out by the winter circle. We got so many people coming in. We need some crowd control." Sure, right? So we had these tees on and the Ray-Ban glasses and like this, right? Like we were like tough guys, right? So Rocky Aoki won that year. So he won his own race, right? So he comes in and the place is going nuts. He's like, we got the Benihana beauty pageant up there, and all the girls are up there with him and on top of the boat. And then we were doing the crowd. Now, he got into a limousine, gold limousine Mercedes-Benz. Now, you never, you saw it, like maybe a limousine, but no one ever saw that before. So we got a picture, like 6 of my friends around Rakayoke, right in front of his limo. And supposedly, I was told that was in his restaurant in New York City, hanging up on the wall. So yeah, no, I think it was the personalities too. Right. It was, and I think there was a lot of big boats, and that's something that, I wish, and I like to maybe work with the mayor or some business people for next year. Try to get more of a prize. I think that'll attract more boats.
Yeah.
We've had our big boats, and the big boats are exciting. I think they're all really exciting, and especially being out this year. I was I was a flag guy. The red flag I was telling you, and I just got my shoulder operated on, and it was trying to hold the flag up and stay up because there's so much force when the throttle went down. I was like, oh my God, I'm holding on with my left arm, which is my bad arm. I got the red flag. I was, this is too much, right? So I enjoyed that, and we were talking about how exciting it is to get in that boat and go fast. And before a race, I know where everyone's head's at because I'm just sitting there as a person going to hold the flag, and I was all fired up going through the inlet, and so that was a really good time. I don't know if I ever told you when we had our first press conference. Typhoon came and bought a boat. I think there was a couple boats there, and my idea was to get these reporters into a boat so they could really feel what it was going to be like, really, going fast. Well, Gonna Learn, is it?
You Gonna Learn.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great guy, great family.
Yep.
And so he was taking people out. So he takes me out. We go out in the ocean, come back. I said, wow, it's really, really something. Well, he starts taking these reporters through the inlet like 100 miles an hour, right? I don't know what it was, but they're like, whoa, they're holding onto their notepads. And, of course, the Coast Guard pulled him over and said, what the heck are you doing? You can't be going in it, because he was going back and forth a bunch of times. But I'll tell you, the reporters, and I think this is what we need to do, the reporters were writing these great stories leading up to the race because they were in the boat. They knew the excitement of it, So I know that Scott from Typhoon took me out in his boat, and we closed the hatch. And I'm fat, right? So I'm like, oh, I don't need to put on the seatbelt, right?
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, you do, because I got the helmet on. So he takes me out in the ocean now. I'm driving, and my head kept hitting the top. I'm saying, oh my God, I'm going to knock myself out. Because what a stupid guy. I really should have tied myself in.
Yep.
And I didn't. I'll tell you what, I paid the price on that one. But,
every once in a while, we'll put one in and go for a ride just to make sure everything's running right.
Yeah.
And halfway down the river, I'm looking for my belts. It's funny. Once you're tough at first, and then you realize you need
hit
them.
a couple wakes, and you're like, you're hitting, and yeah, that was tough. But I love all the different kinds of boats. There's a lot of excitement. I saw the one team that came from Missouri banging something. It was a little green boat. Like the first or second year they came, and the water was really rough out there. And I was like, and some people said
little outboard boat.
Yeah,
hanging and banging.
Yeah,
they're from New York actually.
Oh, New York.
Yep. Upstate. No, they're right from Long Island.
I thought they were from Missouri, and I was like really impressed that they came so far. And I said, are you going to go out in this? Because it was pretty rough out there. We had some big rollers, and he's like, oh yeah. And I saw him go to the inlet. I said, oh man. No, you would not catch me out there in that little boat like that. Going that fast.
He's a special individual, John. That's John Hughes is the owner, driver, and throttleman of Hangin' and Bangin'. And I have been a massive fan of that guy from day one.
Really?
He, in my opinion, I think he's probably the most talented driver on the course at any given moment.
Yeah.
Because I've watched him, and don't get me wrong, he doesn't win every race. None of us win every race.
Right.
But I've watched him over his entire body of work, and it's extremely impressive.
Yeah, well, he impressed me, and I see these little boats out there, and they're getting beat up. and they're not holding back.
No.
I mean, I don't get it.
Listen, I'll tell
I don't know
you.
how they survive afterwards.
I started doing this in 2009. I was 15 years old, and I was young and dumb, and you couldn't scare me.
Sure, yeah.
You know, and I went through my, that stage of, I'll tell you, 2 years ago, in 2019, I got in an orange 22-foot velocity called Tomahawk. It's local right here in town.
No, I've seen that. Yeah.
Yep. And I got in that, and I ran with Jeremy Bisson, the owner of that boat. And we went to a couple of flat water races, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, I've done a lot of bigger stuff, and people would say, like, why would you go back and do that? But it's not going back. It's the same thing. Racing at 60 miles an hour or 160 miles an hour is the same thing. And in fact, I think it was even more fun because it was totally out of control. And we went down to the World Championships in Englewood, Florida. Englewood, Florida, for whatever reason, they throw this at us where you get there and the ocean is a lily pond on Saturday. And we race 2 days, Saturday and Sunday. And Sunday, 7 o'clock in the morning on the dot every year, wind comes and just picks it up, 6 to 8 footers every year.
Yeah.
And
and there's a chop too, not just 6 to 8 footers.
Well, it's in the Gulf, so it's not as
yeah.
deep, so it picks it up quick.
Picks it up.
We're going out the inlet, and I immediately realized I made a mistake. Like we're going out, and I said to Jeremy, "So how much weight you put in front of this?" Silence. He goes, "I was supposed to put weight up there."
Oh.
I'm like, "Yeah, man." So we're going out, and we got the green flag, and I said to him, one of my good buddies, actually, I'm wearing a sweatshirt right now, Team Progression. Shout out Joe Riley.
There you go.
I set out to just pace him. I said to Jeremy, just don't go for broke. A lot of these boats aren't going to finish. I said, just
that's smart.
Let's hang and run with Joe because I know Joe. I trust Joe. I wouldn't mind if we got tight or all the normal things. Green flag went up and Joe left me like I was standing still. I mean, these little 21 footers were 21 feet in the air at 60 miles an hour. Like I'm thinking, today's a 40 mile an hour day. No, I mean they were running, and I was terrified. I'm telling you, I've been in a lot of crazy stuff. I was so scared of what we were doing. We got in. We were on our way in as my father was on.
That's probably not the way the race, though, right? Being scared like that.
Oh man. Well,
I guess it's smart, right?
Experience is important.
Yeah.
At that point, when I say scared, I don't mean scared like shaken. I mean scared like I know what can happen.
No, yeah.
So it's a little bit of experience there of just knowing not to push the limit. And you're
No, don't worry about it.
You're okay? So we were on our way back in, and my father was on his way out with our 38 Fountain. The purple and yellow was up, and I was running that with him as well that day. So I jumped off of that one onto the other one and went back out. And my father, he breaks my balls. Every chance he gets, he tells this story.
Fathers always did.
Third lap, fourth lap, I'm crying like a baby. Yeah. I'm like, dude, please pull this thing down. I can't take it anymore. I just got out of this little 21-footer.
Yeah. Oh.
My spine is in my head.
Oh, you got to be.
Right. And I'm crying, and he goes, yeah, I bet you'll never do that again, huh? No. He was right. I never got in one of those again.
Always look at the water first, and then, okay.
Those guys are a special breed.
Oh,
they're a special breed. We're all a little nuts. No. Those guys are crazy.
Well, they're crazy because I've seen it. I've been out there in that water and going that fast. No way. No. And it's funny because you were just talking about like different racers, and I was talking to wherever I go, a lot of the racers see me and they come up to me. Like I'll be at a bar and the son of Scott, who owns the Typhoon. Yeah. His son, I guess, has it was some kind of a poker run or something going on, and I'm at the bar there, and he came up, he said hello, and really, really respectable guys, and a lot of fun. And I'll never forget my first year as a mayor. We had the race, and we had to work on. Our police had to work on Miss Geico and how to bring her in. I mean, I'm like, well, what do you mean? What do you mean? What's the big deal, right? Well, I'll tell you, I have videos of it. Talk about exciting, right? So Miss Geico pulls it. She's got the whole show, right? She's got the one tractor, then the other tractor comes in with with the boat. Oh my God, it's amazing. Later on that night, we're at the Wharfside patio. We're gonna have a fundraiser for a local charity, and most of the racers were there, and Alex and Annie pulls up. Oh my God! So they that boat took half the parking lot, and Jimmy comes out. I go, hey, I got a chance to meet him and talk to him, and it's really funny because a couple weeks before, he sent me all kinds of photos when he was racing here in Point Pleasant Beach, and he signed them and everything, and sent me hats and bracelets. It was just really great.
I was actually, not to cut you off, I was going to say, from your Benihana days, you probably watched Jimmy race back then.
Oh, absolutely.
He raced American Express.
Yeah, American Express. And believe me, it's funny to find out who raced what. Remember the long shot. I want to talk about long shot in a second. But so when Jimmy comes out and he's talking to me, and he's a real ladies man. He's pictures with everybody. I mean, he's really great for racing.
He's amazing.
He's just amazing for racing, and I mean, you just have to have him at the races because people love him.
Yeah.
And so I said, hey, it's gonna be pretty. Gonna be pretty choppy and big out there. He goes, you better bring a camera. And you know what? He was right, because on turn 4, we were right in Jenkinson's. That's where the turn was, and that's where the water was coming. So the swell and Miss Geico and all the boats were flying through the air. Oh my God, was that great? I mean, everyone was taking pictures like crazy and whooping and hollering and everything else. But so you talk about like boats that I remember. I remember Long Shot. So I met him, downtown when the first year when all the boats came.
That's Bill
in.
Ellswick.
Yeah, shorter guy, right? And he comes up and he goes, Mayor, I want to give you a shirt, and it's a long sleeve, has Long Shot on it. I love it. I wear it all the time.
Right. That's
people
too cool.
Oh no, it's really cool. So it was really nice. I was given OPA a shirt, so.
There you go, part of the crew.
Yeah, I was going to wear it in today, but I don't want to do that. But just you talk about racing and what it does to the town and the people's morale and the childhood dreams, and people remember when. That's what it's all about, if you ask me. I mean, there's nothing better. And yeah, is it economic benefit? Absolutely, but it's really, like I said, the people I talked to all over this state, they were excited about the race coming back. It hasn't been back in a while. And they tried in different areas and stuff like that. But, there's nothing like Point Pleasant Beach.
No, there's not.
And Scott said it. He goes, boy, it was my first race. I love the ocean. I love Point Pleasant Beach. So we were just happy to have you guys back. It was a lot of, and then I don't know if I really got into it, but so when I became mayor, that was in November. And I talked to my friend John Hughes. I said, John, I want to bring the boat race back. He goes, that's fantastic. You need to call Smitty right away. So I call Smitty.
Oh, John Park, you mean?
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry, my friend John, John Parks, who he knows everything. He knows history. He's like you. And when he was a young kid, we were doing other things. He was working on race boats, holding a line, putting a fender on, whatever it was. That's what John did. And I know that he was with a couple teams before, and I know that he helps Miss Geico now. So he was, I forget where I was going with this, but I was asking him something. Oh, well.
That happens.
Yeah, I know. I forget.
You had mentioned that you were calling Smitty.
Yeah. Thank you. So can we cut that out then, so I don't look silly?
Yeah, don't worry.
Thanks. No, it's fine. Believe me, I'm used to looking silly. No, so he goes, you got to call it. This is Smitty. This is a guy, OPA. I called your dad, I think within 48 hours, he was in my office, and I said, and even on the phone, I said, I want to bring it back. And he was like, he goes, you got to be kidding me. He goes, people don't want us around, and especially Point Pleasant Beach has been telling us, no, thank you for years. So he was really excited. I was really excited. I think within a week or so, we had a poster made up. We had it ready to go. We were ready to go. Town was behind it.
That night. He came home, and I remember it specifically.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know that I've ever had the chance to express my gratitude for your support over those years. And now that it's continuing is even better. And I can remember that phone call. Whenever he goes to a meeting like that, whenever he's going to go see the mayor, we all know about it, right?
Yeah.
So we're all waiting. We're all home waiting for the news, right? And he goes, "You're never going to believe this." And I'm like, "What?" He goes, "The mayor wants a boat race." I said, "Really?
Yeah,
we're used to having to shove it down you guys' throats, you know?"
No. I wanted it, and I think a week or 2 weeks later, Tony Potoff called me, and she was running the races for years, in
New
the
Jersey
80s,
Offshore. They don't get enough credit.
No. I mean, Tony and all her people, and I wish. If I remember all their names, I would tell you all their names, but they're all just amazing. Like Angelo. He's amazing, and I think he was racing the first year, And the second year he decided not to race. I think he hit his head warming up or something, and hit his head on the throttle or something like that.
In liquid addiction.
Yeah, you're right. And he said, "No, forget that," And then Mark Henderson, what a great guy.
Another amazing guy.
So what I wanted to do was, time leading up to the race was to get race boats out in front of like bars and restaurants and downtown, and hear the races come. I really wanted to really jazz it up, and we did. We had boats all over the place. We had boats coming to the press conference, and I know that Mark was at the Broadway Grill, and I went there. I have to admit, I went there in the morning and get a couple drinks, to get ready for the race. But no, they do a nice job, and his boat was out there, and it was just so much fun. Seeing the boats being lifted up into the water, that was just great.
You know what it is to me? I get asked this a lot. Even in our most recent swing up in Michigan, I get the calls from the newspapers, and they want me to sum up Offshore in a paragraph. And I'm like, listen, I can't. I could tell you what it is. Yeah. Okay. The experience that you've had, okay, from being a fan to then being the mayor and bringing the race in, and okay, see how you immediately picked up on the mentality of the group. You immediately found that this is an awesome group of people that benefit our town, that come in and they're stand-up individuals, and that transcends through every level of the sport. Yeah. So when we deal with our guys in-house, okay, whether it is the OPA staff or it's the racers that support OPA, or it is the same at every level. Yeah. It is respectful, it is fun, it is playful, it is everything that you want it to be. I can't tell you, I don't think I can name a single racer that doesn't like another racer. Like, there's no feuds
yeah, I mean, you hit it right on. The people that you're racing against and with, I mean, when you talk about a family, it really is like that.
It is.
I mean, I know your dad and Strictly Business.
Johnny Stanch and
Johnny,
Louie. Yep.
And Lou, right? So I was in Lou's boat, the Fountain, the second race this year as the flag person, and he raced it, in the first race, and I go, man, you want to go out there again? Okay, but he's great, and you guys really go at it, and I think it's really funny. And it's all good fun. And
What's
you guys
funny
are out
about
there
that?
Competing, but it's fun.
Oh, it's real competition.
Yeah.
That's the only real part of the spectacle is the competition. Everybody comes up to us and is like, man, what happened with you guys and Louie and Johnny? And it's funny. People believe that.
Yeah, I know. It's too bad.
Johnny Stanch is my father's probably best friend in the whole wide world.
He's a funny man.
And Louie is got to be a tie for that spot.
Yeah.
And it's just so funny. We get those calls, and I'm like, no, I love Johnny.
Yeah.
And then they'll call Johnny, and Johnny will go, no, I hate that guy.
Yeah.
Johnny's so good at it.
Those guys are funny, and like I said, you're all a family. And I think also we had in the winter, we had everyone buy for the awards at the end of the year.
Yes.
At Martell's,
Yep.
and another great company, Martell's, is always given, and Jenkinson's is always giving as well. So these the Storino family, so the Bassender family and the Storino family, they've been here for years, and so they. Will give quite a bit, and so it's always nice to, like in the winter, even to see you guys. The whole year's gone by, then to see you in the winter, and then the Typhoon people. There's hundreds of them. I mean, talk about a family. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, they travel with like 30, 40 people.
The Dog Pound.
Yeah. Oh, is that what it's called?
Yeah,
the Dog Pound?
that started years and years ago.
Yeah,
so we
that's
call
funny.
Randy. So you're familiar with Scott,
Yeah,
Randy's brother, and it's funny because I actually have a funny story about that. You met him in his first boat race at your first boat race as mayor.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And in that race, him and I hit each other.
Oh.
And not much damage, no big deal. It was just we both
bumping's racing, right? Isn't that what it is? It's like NASCAR.
Yeah, with boats we try not to do it as much.
I know.
The damage seems to cost a lot more than everything else. Also, it's dangerous being open, no
course.
roofs, and but we're running into that turn, right? And it was just a weird situation. We weren't close to each other to begin with.
Yeah.
We were just kind of aiming in the same direction. And we hit the same wave in two different places and wound up in the same place in the air. Yeah. No big deal. Randy and I talked it out. We were fine. And I actually, at that time, had never met his brother, Scott. I didn't know who he was. So we're at Jenkinson's that night, and or Mortel's for the awards. They do the beautiful spread there. They do dinner for us. And
they're really great.
We're sitting at the bar, and I'm next to this guy, and we're talking, and we're having a great time. Like an hour goes by, and I'm like, man, this guy, I could just talk to this guy forever. He's a
great guy.
And it's nice sometimes when me being Smitty's son, everywhere I go, if you don't know who I am, when you learn who I am, everybody makes a point to come talk to me, which is great.
Which is nice.
But sometimes it's really nice to just find yourself a corner and hide for a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm hiding with this guy, and we're just we're hitting it off, and all of a sudden I go, "Why are you bleeding?" He's bleeding on his arm. And he goes, I was in a boat race today. I go, me too. Which boat? And he goes, Typhoon. And I almost spit my drink across the bar. I said, you hit me.
I'm glad you're bleeding.
Yeah. But he's an awesome guy. But to tell the story of Randy, his brother Randy, we all call him Mad Dog.
Which one's the shorter one?
Randy.
Oh, then it's Randy I'm talking about then. Yeah, Randy.
And
Randy's crazy as hell. I'm telling you.
He is a lunatic.
He's a lunatic, right?
And we all call him Mad Dog, and the fans of Typhoon or the Dog Pound, and
great.
And Typhoon rules the seas.
Oh, they have a dog on their shirt. Yeah, I know you're
that's
talking
Randy
about.
Mad Dog Schluth. And
it's Randy that
he's got a special place in my heart. His boat's right there on the wall, and he was
there it is.
He was Offshore Live #1. He was my first guest. And I'll just always love them. They're a fan favorite everywhere we go.
Well, you know what? Yeah, because they bring their own fans.
They do.
I mean, it's not their fan favorite. They bring their own fans. How can they not? But they're fantastic. And Randy took me on a little ride on his little motorcycle that he has there, and I almost fell off that damn thing. But he's great. They're all great, and they just love racing. They love coming together and having a great time.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's awesome.
They're like, Mayor, they're not letting us drink. I'm like, guys. What do you want?
That's what got me the most when you first came along. I mean, it was such a crazy thing for us to have the mayor of this town be all about this and be not only all about it but on board. Yeah. I mean, you've helped us in so many ways, and that is just so cool. But that was one of the things that was like a head scratcher for me. Was like, you want to be tied to this closely? I mean, we are a bunch of knuckleheads, and you went to bat for us year after year.
Well, you have to be one to know one, right?
That's it.
I'm a knucklehead too.
That's it.
But listen, I mean, when it comes to helping you guys out, I mean, there's other places I know I can help you out, and finding a place to to race, So I don't know. We should talk later on. I'd love to help you out if I can.
You're not going anywhere.
No. I mean, the funny thing is, I mean, people say, will you run again? Maybe, but I'm looking at higher level, so I can help out more people. I mean, that's why you run for a county position or a state, state legislator position, stuff like that. So we'll see. No, I'm not going anywhere.
No, I know you're not. You ever meet Augie?
I have.
Well,
he's a funny character.
Augie has a saying. You only get out two ways.
Yeah.
Natural and unnatural causes.
What? I've heard that way. I've heard that from him before. No, he's a great guy. And again, the personalities that you have are fantastic.
They're amazing guys. Yeah, they are. Yeah. And we tend to say guys a lot, and the women. The wives and the families and the girls that are involved in this sport, it is such a insane group of people. It just doesn't make sense. We're all from different walks of life.
Right.
We're all from different parts of the country. Some people are from different parts of the world.
Yeah.
And we all come together for these 8 to 12 times we race. And
it's fantastic.
And it is. When I say it's a family, I've said it 100 times on this show. It's not a figure of speech. Yeah. It's a real family.
Yeah. And you talk about certain types of boats that, like when I watch the Saris boat, is that what it is, with the 3 guys standing up?
Yep.
See, that's my racing. That goes back to when I was a kid.
Right.
With the 3, because you needed a navigator at the time, right?
Yep.
So you had a navigator.
Had to plot the course.
Yeah. So, which was a major course. Now it's not that way, but that's okay. I think, like I said, the racers would come and go. And it would be exciting for a couple seconds because the helicopters are great, they're there in the boat. And then it's gone. And then all of a sudden they come back again. So now they're right there. But Saris is just a great boat to watch.
Yeah. Great team.
Yeah, it's a great team. Now, am I right about this? Like the father I remember he was in like the first race, and that was pretty rough out there. And he's an older gentleman. He's like, I got a little beat up, but the son wasn't too happy that his father was racing because it was pretty tough on him.
I don't remember that one in with Saris. They actually This year's Point Pleasant?
No. It was the first year that when they came.
Yeah, that could be.
Yeah,
that could be.
Yeah.
They're a tough bunch. So that's Jason Saris is the father. Johnny Saris is his son that races with him and also operates.
He does another boat too, right? Doesn't he, or something?
He
like that?
does.
Yeah.
And they at home in Lake George, they operate Performance Marine Saris Racing engines. They are phenomenal.
Yeah.
They are top notch in everything they do.
The engines are phenomenal.
Everything.
And they build them and stuff.
They do.
Yeah.
They're like us, just elsewhere.
Well, I just want you to know that I talked to Johnny Hurricane. Is that right, or is it
Joe?
Joe Hurricane, and he says you have his boat here, so don't hurt him too much.
I
just want to pass that.
Yeah,
message
there you
along.
go, Joe. If you're watching, he hooked you up. Don't worry.
All right, because his wife was there, so I said I'll mention it to him. You know the whole bit. So don't.
No, he Joe's another one.
Great guy.
Great guy.
And again, he came up to me. I was at a. It was a fundraiser, and him and his wife came up, and he's a police officer too, I believe. So
yes.
he's just real. I don't think I met him before. He came up, and he's just excited about Point Pleasant Beach, and just
he's a wild man.
Yeah, yeah.
He's a wild man. When I met him years and years ago, it was probably one of my first years racing. So it had to be 2009, 10-ish, and my old man's telling me we're going to meet this guy. He just bought a boat, and he wants to come racing, and he's a police officer. Yada yada yada. So we get there, and he's telling me all these stories. At the time, he was on a TV show called Jacked, and it was all these cops would dress up in plain clothes, and they'd go to some not top of the line neighborhood and leave a car running, and wait for somebody to steal it, right? And that was the whole premise of the show. Yeah. And like I'd go through these stories with him, and I'm like, "You do this for fun?" Yeah, like it's like, it's a great time. I avoid these situations.
Man, no, he was great to talk to, So I don't know if he's going to race anymore this year, but
I'm sure he will.
Oh, good.
We'll have him ready for North Carolina.
When do your races? How long do they go for?
As far as the season?
Yeah.
The week before Thanksgiving is our last one. That's Inglewood Beach, Florida. That's our World Championship.
Yeah. I've been watching, on TV, and it's amazing. I was talking to Johnny Parks about how I'm watching this race, and it's some rollers out there. It was in Florida, and the announcer kept saying, if this guy keeps at this speed, he's going to lose it. He's going to tip it, and sure enough. It went right on its side. I couldn't believe it. And then what? Last year, Geico went tipped over again. So that's it's very dangerous out there. It's a very dangerous sport.
It is, but it's come a long way.
Yeah, well, of course,
it's come a long way. My boat outside, the White Phantom that's on the wall behind you there. That's if you crawl through that. That is built.
You're number 3?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a beautiful boat. I saw that this year. It's the first time I've seen that.
Yeah, that's us. And that's I raced a 1980 Carrera my whole life. Mm-hmm. So I was very familiar with the old beat up race boat.
Yeah, right.
When we got that,
piecing it together.
Listen, it's probably the first time I was ever even in a brand new boat.
Yeah.
My era, we don't know what it's like to go to a boat show and buy a boat.
But all these boats are older, though, aren't they? I mean, most of them, are older.
You got to think of the thought process, right? Yeah. So you have two different divisions in racing, bracket and spec class, right? Mm-hmm. Bracket class, why would you buy a brand new one? You got to stop at 70 or stop at, we're all bracketed speeds.
Right, yes.
So you don't need the top-of-the-line boat. You need a top-of-the-line motor, And I laugh. People look at those bracket boats like they're some silly sideshow. And I'm like, man, you don't know how wrong you are. Those bracket boats, they are running more horsepower in those boats than Miss Geico is. And that's the truth. And it's pretty wild. But the safety factor, I had never even my era. We don't know new stuff. Like I grew up with boats that were your run of the mill boat is way too expensive for me to ever even entertain.
Well, I would say 99% of the racers are working Monday through Friday and maybe racing blue collar work racing on the weekend. And I learned that because I was like how many people are coming on Friday and someone said, well, it all depends if they can get off work and that that their boat is running. I was like because they're working on it all the time. Yeah. So that's pretty amazing.
Well, so that's the first one I've ever been in, a brand new boat. And not just race boat. I mean anything.
Yeah.
And so I'm crawling through it, and I was just dumbfounded with the advances that we've made, how safe you are in that boat. I mean, one thing you could look at, just one silly thing you could see from the outside is the windshield. Most boats, the windshield just continues on a straight path to the back and then up and then back around, right? This one, there's a cut in the windshield. So in front of me, it's as tall as it'll ever be. As it comes back towards me, it rises in the canopy. Oh. By the time it gets to me, my shoulder is below the fiberglass and the windshield's above my head.
Oh, so you see.
So I can go like this and see. But sitting in it, you're below that fiberglass.
Yeah.
I mean, you're encased in
Yeah.
a serious, solid piece. Yeah. And so like Geico there, when they went over in Sarasota with, or was it Sarasota? Yeah, Sarasota with Victory, did it right behind them, the guys from Dubai. And both, all 4 people got out of the boat without a scratch.
Yeah.
Steve Curtis actually was laughing, the throttleman for Geico, telling me that he never even got wet.
Yeah, yeah.
You go right out the tunnel hatch, and
that's amazing.
You wait for the rescue boat.
When I first was in these boats, I always, like, every year I'd go in them, and I was like, wow, the hatches. How many people are using the hatch? And quite a few. I guess the more I'm watching, the more I'm involved. It happens quite a bit.
It does.
Yeah.
And it's the nature of the beast. See, what makes this such a magical thing is, I think the fact that it's not supposed to be doing it.
Yeah.
Like, there's guys, and I don't throw shade at anyone, but drag racing, for instance, right? You could spend the same amount of money that we spend on these boats and build a drag car. The big difference is you race for 9 seconds, we race for 40 minutes. So the fun factor is a little bit in my direction.
Yeah, but that's a huge difference because your motors don't really, to have your motors going all out for 40 minutes or so.
It's a lot.
That's quite something.
And so the other thing is, if you build a fast car, when you're going fast in the car, it feels like it's supposed to be doing it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. There's nothing out of place about that aside from the fact that you're going a lot faster than you would be normally. And in a boat, even a moderate speed feels like you're not supposed to be doing this. And so once you can harness that, once your skills grow to a point in where you're technical enough to understand what the boat is doing and how to fix it, that is a whole nother level of fun. It's a whole nother level of magic. When you're watching these guys in Point Pleasant Beach, and it's 8-footers out there, and you're thinking, how are they doing this? It's because they've spent years learning that craft.
Yeah.
And once you do, there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that there's anything even close to it.
Well, no, I don't think so. And I'm a NASCAR fan, right? So I love NASCAR. They go fast, they get real close, and so on. But at the same time, their track doesn't really change. It maybe change because of the heat or whatever, and the tires and stuff. But when you're out in the ocean, that's constantly it's constantly
different
changing.
Every 10 feet.
Every turn is different. And as the time goes by, the wind may pick up. Like I said before, either tides going in and out. So it's always changing. So the one guy from Massachusetts, I forget his boat. He drives with his wife. I forget her name, and he does it all. He does the throttle and the steering. I still don't know how he does that.
Yeah, that's. There's a few people that have done that over the years.
I don't know how you do that.
Especially
out in like a rough seas.
There's a few, like the smaller classes, like the Class 7 guys that you see, the little single engine outboard guys. A lot of them run a hot foot. So their throttle's like a pedal, like it would be in your car.
Oh, no kidding.
And that they claim there's a performance advantage to that, like being able to throttle it with your foot and really be dialed into what you're doing. Also, for a driver to not have to relay a message to a throttleman. So in the time it could take me to go, Steve, pull it back.
Yeah.
We could have missed the opportunity already. Whereas,
but are you doing that, or does your throttleman really know what's going on? So are you in sync?
Ideally, you're not doing that. Ideally, your team.
Hopefully, like you're in sync.
I raced with my brother for 10 straight years.
Yeah. He's a great throttleman, I'm told.
He is phenomenal. Yeah. In my opinion, and I've been around this sport a long time, and I promise you I'm not biased. There's plenty of sibling rivalry. I think he is the greatest single greatest throttleman that's ever existed. Wow. And I think, unfortunately, he's never gotten a chance to prove it. And in every instance that he has, he's either had the rug pulled out from under him or he has proven it. And I'll tell you, towards the end of our career racing together, we didn't talk much. We'd come up to a turn, and depending on where I was coming into the turn, he knew where I was going to be. He knew what the point was. Like, if I was going in here, he knew why. He knew where I was ending up, what I was looking for. We didn't talk. But if you are, if you're not, you don't have that rapport built, if you don't have the experience, there's a lot of instances where I think doing it yourself is an advantage, but not when it gets rough.
I don't see it.
When
I
it gets
really
rough, I don't understand how these guys are doing it.
Even you tell me about the throttle being on the ground as a pedal. You're getting beat up out there. With the waves.
And you're bouncing
and you're bouncing. I don't know how you do that.
I've never tried it. Aside from pleasure boating, which, a lot of my buddies, like when I go home and I take my boat out on the weekends, they'll these guys all think they can be boat racers. They want to tell me.
Go fast. Yeah. Well, try turning at 40 miles an hour.
Right. Yeah. And I try to explain to them. I mean, listen, are they all talented individuals? Can they all run a boat very well? Yeah. But it's different. I try to describe boat racing, and I sum it up to one thing. It's like if you've ever seen Times Square and you've seen that just sea of cars, right? Mm-hmm. Imagine if you were sitting in that sea of cars and I put a rock on the gas pedal and I said, drive.
Go.
There's no lifting. There's no you don't hit the brakes. You don't lift. It's wide open from start to finish, and whatever's in front of you, you got to figure it out.
And I mean wide open.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you saw, like I did this little video on Facebook. There was so much force I had to sit down. Because I couldn't hold the flag up any longer, so I had to sit down. I didn't want to stand up anymore because there was so much force, and I was in like the back seat, and it was amazing. I mean, like it's fast.
Yeah.
I mean, it's and I've gone fast before, but never like I've been going these last I guess 4 or 5 years, especially in the boats. Right. I mean, it's fantastic.
Well, and also, was that your first time in something?
A pace boat? Yeah, and I'll tell you what. I couldn't believe how well they handled the water, because it was pretty rough out there.
Well, and that wasn't just a pace boat. So that was a 35 Fountain, owned by
Lou,
owned by Lou Gicontieri,
Yeah.
the owner of Strictly Business, and who was driving the boat for you, right?
Yeah.
So you were in there that was like taking a ride with Dale Earnhardt.
Now that when I was with him, because I was on 2 pace boats, so the one pace boat had back seats, so I was sitting in the back seat. But Lou, I was in like the seat itself, so that was fun.
Yeah, that's cool.
That was really fun.
And that's the real deal. I mean, that's Louis. He gets this rap, and I don't understand why. It's almost like people think like him and Johnny are just there for a good time. I raced a boat with Louis in 2019 in Fort Myers, and I've only raced with my family and a few select people that are close friends of mine that I did it for. And so Louis came up to me, and there was an issue where Johnny couldn't run his boat. Unfortunately, he had committed to another team, and the races were supposed to be separate. The 2 classes were supposed to be separate races, and they weren't. So we took actually my father's next door neighbor in Florida, who doesn't have much experience running fast boats anyway,
right.
and threw him in the purple boat, and I drove for Louis. So I said to Louis, listen, we got a couple laps here where it's going to take him some time to teach. Wes is his name, who was driving for my father. He goes, take him a lap or 2 to teach him the boat. Once he does, that old man's coming. He's out of his mind. So we got 2 laps to get as far away from him as we can.
Yeah, because then he's coming.
And I got to tell you, man, we turned in 8 of probably my most enjoyable laps I've ever had in my life. Louis is the real deal. Like, I've been in a boat with, in my opinion, the best throttleman that ever lived. And I'm telling you, Louis right there with him. Yeah. I mean, he's a madman.
Yeah. Well, he's been doing it for years.
Yeah.
I mean, for years. I don't know if he was racing in the 80s, but if he does, then I would have seen him. But
his one of his first boat races was actually our Camden race that we spoke about earlier.
Is that right?
Yep. He's been with us since the beginning.
Yeah, I tell you, he's a stand-up guy.
He is.
Well, everybody really is. Everyone's been really great, and like in the town, we moved the pit from the parking lot that was closer to the ocean. That's a town parking lot, and we people are like, hey, we need that revenue, so we moved it to the parking lot near the
train station.
Yeah, the train tracks. And I got to tell you something. We had to move in all new electric and water stuff like that, but it was fine. People in the town and the council I was with, they were all like, yeah, 100%. Let's do it, because we knew what it meant for the town. I mean,
yeah.
So it's important.
And I know there was a bit of a drawback initially making that move, and I think, to tell you now, just coming full circle with it, I think the racers actually appreciate it more.
Yeah.
We're in that nice fenced-in parking
Yeah,
lot,
yeah.
and it's our own show.
Yeah, I'm trying to think why we made that move. I don't think it was really about revenue. It was about maybe.
No, there was a dredging going on.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we were dredging that lake, and so the dredge spoils was basically in the lake.
Yeah.
Okay, now I remember it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we moved there. We had a pivot. We did, and it's worked out well.
It worked out great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what's cool too is it seems like no matter what the circumstances are, we always do that with Point Pleasant Beach.
Yeah.
Just it could look as grim could be, and we always find
Just
a
work
way,
it out.
make
Yeah.
a way. You know.
I was just thinking when I talked about that, because that's where the basically I went to the high school band, and this was really the time, like it was the end of the school year, and the band teacher, she's really fantastic. She's done an amazing job at the high school, and so I said, listen, I want the band to be in front, because we'd have the firemen and ambulance, and then we have the band leading off the parade, and here I am on Miss Geico, like the first year. I'm like, this is amazing, man. That was so much fun, and I had a bunch of kids I was able to bring up on there, and we're throwing candy. I mean, that's great stuff. It's really great. And so every year I'd go ask the band, like, yeah, absolutely. And I think the first year it was raining, like 15 minutes before, and they showed up and they marched. The funny thing was, so. Where we started was Arnold Avenue, go all the way down to Ocean Avenue, make a left, go to the inlet, okay? So basically that was going to be the end, right? Well, the band just kept walking, and everyone just kept so we went around the inlet, down Broadway, and then down Chicago, and then back into and so the next year I go back. They go, no way, we're not doing it. And the teacher, she says, Mayor, they walked, it was a long walk, I said, no problem, I'll take care of it. So I talked to some parents, and the one parents, they own Briggs Taxi in town. Great family, been here for a very long time. So Briggs Taxi had these buses. So we went to the inlet, the band, boom, they got their rides home.
Right.
And then, it just kept going. But, the parade is again, if you remember the people that are in the streets, they're not from town, not all of them anyway. A lot of them are from out of town. They love the parade. So, that's what Point Pleasant Beach is all about. It's all about giving. We've always been able to give, and whether it's the beach or the great downtown or restaurants we had, and all kinds of events. And then I bought back, I don't know if you saw the, we have the we still have it, which is great. The tug of war against Manasquan and Point Beach
across the inlet.
Yeah. We closed down the inlet, and everyone's on board with that. The Coast Guard's there working with us.
Have you ever seen that?
No, I haven't.
It's fantastic.
It's the coolest thing ever. They take a tug of war rope and they go clean across the inlet.
Yeah.
And Manasquan faces off against Point Pleasant.
Yeah.
Oh
And
my
they pull
gosh.
each other across the
That's
inlet.
awesome.
It's fantastic.
That's
It's
awesome.
amazing.
Yeah, and then so the first year, I had to go to Kansas for a wedding for a very good friend, and so I told my council members, I said, now listen, because I'm not everything, okay? I couldn't believe it. I mean, I put this together, and I wasn't going to be there, so I said, now listen. If they say, where's the mayor? You say, he's over there. I just saw him. So the first year, Manasquan won. And so the mayor calls me. He's like, where are you? I said, I'll be right over. and then, so every year is like, I think the next year, Point Beach won, and I think it's gone back. I think Point Beach is 2-1 right now, but it's a lot of fun. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Well, I can tell you, as I don't live here, but our business is right here in Bricktown, and a big part of our life has been in Point Pleasant, and I can tell you that we've been lucky to have you.
Yeah,
and so where are you at now? What are you looking forward to? What's next for Stephen Reid?
I mean, what's next for me? I mean, right now, I guess a few months, you win some races, you lose some races, right?
That's
it.
I
lost, and so you move on. You look to better yourself, and my whole deal as a public official was like George Bush, the 41st president, wrote in his book, when he was a public official, he wanted to wake up every day and help somebody. So that was my whole deal. Like, who can I help? At least one person a day. So I really enjoyed that. Being a mayor was just the best. And I could really help so many people and do so many great things. And our town is great. So and the people are great there too. So I mean, you know, there's other positions that may opening up, maybe for county freeholder or an assembly or senate seat or something like that. So I'll you know, when the time comes, I'll be ready. I'll put my hat in the ring, and we'll see where it goes. But you know, who knows? I mean, I think there's more time there. I still have a lot to give. So
Right.
yeah. So I mean, I'm not as you said, I'm not going anywhere.
No, and it's a tough ring. It's a, you know,
Yeah.
I only experience a fraction of what you do.
Yeah.
You know, I'm vice president here in OPA, Smitty's president, and the way that kind of is you know, the old term, shit rolls downhill, right?
Yeah.
And so I kind of get the job nobody wants sometimes,
Sure,
and
sure.
got to answer the hard questions and deal with the angry people and all, you know, and I can't imagine what drives you to do that. It has to
Yeah.
be exactly what you just said.
Well, it's not the money. So
No, that's for sure.
so people are, wow, you must get insurance and money, a lot of money. I said, no. I think it was, I'm going to say 6,000. Was a councilman for years too. So I think I made 4 and then 6. So believe me, it's not the money.
No.
And it's definitely not the gratitude. You don't have anyone. No one says, hey, thanks a lot.
It's thankless.
It's thankless.
It's totally
It's
thankless.
really amazing. You know, but it's just knowing that you're helping people, you're doing the right thing. That's what it's all about. Yeah, you
Right.
If you're going to get into politics thinking that, you know, someone's going to thank me.
Yeah, right.
You know, and let me tell you something. When you get home, no one's thanking you because your wife and your daughter's like, you know, you're not spending
Where
any
you
time
been?
with me. Where
Yep.
you've been the whole bit. So when I did lose you know being a mayor, my wife and my daughter said, you know, we're not that unhappy. I go, what do you mean? I said, what do you mean? And they said, no, you were never really here. I go, what are you talking about? I said, Dad, we were eating dinner. You had a phone there all the time, people texting you and everything else.
Yep.
So, and again, I had my own business, so it was, you know, busy with that, busy with. I think I put more time into the business. I mean, the town than I did my business. So,
Right.
So you know what's new with me is that Peter Cankro, Jersey Mike Subs, he was a founder. He's my hero. He was one of my first bosses at 14 or 15 years old. I started working with him in high school, and we started with one store. We're just celebrating over 2,000 stores now.
How cool is that?
So it was great. I mean, he bought me in October, and you know things weren't that good. I lost the primary. I was you know tail between legs, and it's tough to wake up in the morning, you know. And then the last, so I lost the primary. The next morning at 10 o'clock. I got a press conference for this race that's coming up.
Right.
So everyone's like, oh, how you doing? I'm like, oh, all right, you know.
Right.
It was tough.
Well, because you're still involved with us at that level. Jersey Mike's was a huge supporter for Point Pleasant.
And you know, hopefully, you know, we always will. I just think that there's other people need to maybe put up some money as well. And I tell you, if I was still a mayor, I think as a town, because the town benefits. So. I think maybe I need to talk to the mayor and maybe some of the council members about maybe them giving some money, you know, like maybe $25,000 or something like that, and you know, either matching or something. So they got some skin in the game also. You know, I think that will also help attract the bigger boats. You know, all the boats are great, but I think the bigger boats really people come out for the bigger boats.
Yeah, and you know what? It's funny because sometimes it's a tough thing to say, but the guys really understand that.
Yeah.
You know, it's a can't have one without the other situation, 100%, because the big boats are big cost.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, Geico had a very fortunate situation, which unfortunately just ended after 14 years. But that wasn't a surprise. It was a little blunt,
right.
but we knew that was coming.
All right.
They've been looking for other sponsors
Is that
elsewhere.
right?
They're
Okay.
not going to go away. Just that sponsorship ended.
They got everything there,
Right.
You know, so.
But it's a lot of money to fund those teams every year. So what
Yeah.
you see with the big boats is they come and go, and they tend to come and go really quickly, like 2-3 year spans. You see a lot of these guys get in, get out. Whereas the small teams are every year you can count on them. They're going to be there. And if it weren't for them, there's dismal years. There's years where, you know, the economy doesn't do so well, and those big boats get parked.
Yeah.
You know, when you look at how some of, you know, and I sometimes talk about it like it's a totally different world, but it is for me. You know, you see the big money guys, they tend to park park the fishing boat. You know, the commodities it just doesn't work out once funds get low and they go away, and then those little boats that don't always get the recognition they deserve, they keep the sport alive.
To me, it's amazing that the little boats are these guys and men and women are working their butts off, and trying to put a roof over their head, and at the same time trying to keep a team going. And they're not out there racing because they're going to make money. No. No. And there's, I guess maybe at a certain level they are, but none of the people that I've ever met said, "Hey, I want to come here to win $5,000 or $20,000."
No.
Has nothing to do with that. It's about the love of the sport. They want to get out there and mix it up. And like I told you, I know the feeling now, being in one of the pace boats and heading out that inlet. It's really an amazing feeling. And I'm telling you right now, because you were saying earlier about this reporter wants to know about ask you some questions, said you should put the reporter in the boat. Yeah. And that way you don't have to even talk.
Right.
You can tell the history, but when they're in the boat, they know.
It tells a story.
It tells a story. I'm trying to remember, there was the first year, and we did that with two or three of the boats. It was fantastic. And the reporters, we had Channel 12 News, Channel 2, all these reporters with their cameras were in there, and local reporters from the Ocean Star and the Asbury Park Press. They got in the boat and they wrote these great articles for like weeks leading up to the race, and that was phenomenal.
It's worth its weight in gold.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, yeah, it's been a great ride. I mean, it really has. And for me, going down there on Friday, and what was really great, we had Forsberg, who has the smaller boats that race on the river. What kind of boats?
Skiff and
those
Garbies.
Skiffs?
Yep.
Now, I don't know if you've ever been in one of those boats.
I have only once, and I'll never do it again.
Thank you. I mean, it's really something, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're really holding on. You're like, you got to be kidding me. You're going to turn this thing now? So if people don't realize that, I mean, I'm telling you. I mean, because those boats can move. And I'm not just talking about going straight. I mean, that's what people don't understand. You got to turn, And great. And so when I wanted the parade and the downtown, he calls me up. He says, hey, can we bring the skiffs? I'm like, sure. What are they? Bring them.
Yeah.
And they were there also, because I would love. I think Bricktown. I told him, Mayor Ducey, you got a really good mayor here. He's a great guy, and we took him in there, the skiff people, to meet with the mayor, and he wouldn't mind having a race on the Matitacock. I think that would be
awesome.
Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah.
It'd be
well,
great.
and I don't know if you know.
I don't know whatever happened with that.
The history of the skiff and Garbies. That started here at the Jersey Shore.
Yeah, well, that's right.
That was like the original boat racing.
It's great.
It's so cool. And I'll tell you, I had a particular experience. Patchogue, Long Island, we invited them to come to the Offshore race with us. Mm-hmm. And just because their clubs are always hurting. There's not a lot of money in that. I mean, there's really no money in that. That's the guys that are keeping that sport alive are rubbing wood and nickels together and, trying to make it work. And so there's not a lot of prize money. Sponsorship's hard to come by. It's not, it's not heavily exposed. Mm-hmm. So we invited them to come with us because we just thought it was too cool, And so one of the teams showed up and didn't have a navigator, and I didn't understand the logistics of it then. You needed a navigator because the guy on the other side holds that side of the boat down.
Now, did you get in there?
Absolutely. So Steve Adams, he's been on my show before, SWAT officer, big-time boat racer. He's our current GPS official. He comes to me that morning. I'm 16 years old. I'm getting ready for my own boat race. And he goes, hey, I need you for a half hour this morning. One of the guys came without a navigator. So I'm thinking, okay, it's just a little boat, right? Yeah. Like I at that time, I didn't know much about it either. So I'm looking at this little, 12-foot, looks like a front door with a motor on it.
How much damage can it do?
Right. So now it threw me for a loop because they don't put them in the water first. Like they put it in the water and then they moor it like 50 feet off land and they walk back and forth to the boat. So I'm from a different world.
Why do they do that?
Just because they run heats. So
okay.
So they'll run a race and then come in and then they'll have another race in 10 minutes. So it makes it easier. They just moor them up there and walk back and forth. So here I am, freezing, walking through the water. I get in this thing, and I'm so not used to this.
Oh, that's right. You're in the river, too, so that's what you're walking. Okay,
so
I get it.
the seats in that, I don't know if you've ever noticed, the driver sits straight.
Yeah.
He's got a steering wheel in front of him, a couple of pedals, right? One pedal is the steering. Actually, no. One pedal is the throttle. The other pedal is connected to a hinge on the back of the boat. It's a piano hinge with a flat plate that goes the entire length of the boat and drops down like a brake, right? So when they get to the turn, he lets off the throttle and stomps that brake pedal. And it puts the nose down, and they rip the wheel. And you've seen how they turn.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Right? Now, we're doing this, and that seat that the driver's in is straight. The seat that you're in is this way, right? And you face the driver. And the handle is behind him, and the other handle's like this, and the motor is between us.
Right, okay.
Right? I mean, the motor's right here. So he tells me, he goes, if you see the oil pressure get below like 30 pounds, pull the plug. And I go, why? You know, that happens all the time. You don't just let out of it and let the pressure come back. He goes, no, because if it's going to blow up, you're going to wear it.
Oh, right.
And I'm like, oh, interesting.
Oh, nice.
250 degree oil, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I'll make note of that, you know? So we're running, and we ran one quick lap and then pulled down. All the boats get lined up, and he goes to me, okay, if we go upside down, don't stay in it, right? And he puts his helmet down, and we're getting ready to go, right? And I go, that happened a lot? He goes, last time. I'm like, oh my God, dude, what am I doing in here?
Oh, no.
So
and you're 16, so I mean, like, you're dumb, and it's great,
dude.
you know.
If you could have
But that's scary, though.
At a moment in time, that was probably the best moment in time to pick me to do it. I'll never do it again.
No.
I was terrified, man. Those guys are a whole nother breed. Whole nother breed. Them and like the Class 7 guys, they should all get along.
Now, which one's the Class 7? The smaller ones?
Small, yeah. So they're right there. Top picture on the left, the little boat, the gray and orange one there. That's a battle wagon. Shout out to Christian DeCola.
Yeah, I think I've seen him, his boat.
Yeah.
Who was, there's a guy, I'm trying to remember. I'm very good at names, but I forgot his name. I met him and his girlfriend. He married her, had a child, and I think it was Liquid Addiction. He's on. I forget his name.
There's Tim Vandenberg. He's local here. Liquid Addiction was Tim Vandenberg, Jeff. Jeff's gonna kill me. I forgot Jeff's last name, and Cliff Shaw.
Well, whoever it was
Alan Pettit's the owner of the boat.
It was their first year or second, or maybe. You know what? He didn't race the first year. He came back the second or third year, and we had some rollers out there. He got a lot of air, and I mean that boat is in midair, and it's beautiful out in the water. It's just, it's really some really great pictures. I think it was like Asbury Park Press or something like that. Yeah.
That's
great guy.
Funny enough, that's a 24-foot 1980 Carrera.
Yeah.
Which is the same exact boat that I raced for 10 years in that
wow.
class. Yeah. So it's cool. I paid special attention
you know
to
what?
that one.
It's not too small, and it's not too big. It's just, it looks like a perfect boat.
We call them 24/7s, 24 long, 7-foot beam.
Yeah.
And it's just a winning combo.
Yeah.
It was 50 years ago, and it is now.
But because that hull hasn't changed.
Nah.
Right?
No.
I mean, has any hulls really changed over the years?
Yeah.
Okay.
Majorly in some aspects.
Right.
But in those types of boats, not really. I mean, all you could change is the width of the lifting strakes and how far front or back they go. I mean, some people look at the bottom there on that white boat.
Yeah, that's amazing.
See the steps in it and how the strakes change and the positions and stuff like that. There's a whole science to that. It would take us hours for me to walk you through all of it. But that changes minimal stuff as far as characteristics of how the boat runs. But for the most part, the hulls are the same. Those old conventional V's.
When did they start coming with the step?
Now I'm going to get lit on fire for this because I don't particularly know the answer to that. My thoughts are it started with Reggie Fountain.
The Fountain, sure.
And Reggie came from tunnel boats. He used to race in Allison. And he got the design of the Fountain from a combination of the Allison, the Sleek Craft, a couple of the boats that he ran when he was a kid, and which eventually developed the Fountain powerboat, which was the first V-bottom that I know of to run the steps. But I know I'm wrong. I'm sure there's a manufacturer, I'll be corrected 100 times, that was doing it before him. And in catamaran stuff, a lot of them were stepped back in the day, without them even really knowing it. Didn't really know what, it was a different day and age. You got to remember, those boats back then that you grew up watching, they didn't care what their top speed was. They played it up like they cared. But the truth is, they
Yeah,
had
but
to finish. That was the game.
Yeah, but and again, like what I was saying, the races were so different. They were like 30 miles this way and 10 miles that way. It was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, speed was important.
Yeah,
but longevity.
But
was
it was
the key.
It was about finishing.
Yeah,
and I think you have the videos either I've seen it on your Facebook page or YouTube, and you're watching them and you're just like, and they're just going and going and going and taking a pounding. You're like, well, how long is this going to last? I mean, I've had boats my whole life. I have boats now. Everything breaks all the time. And if it's going to break, it's going to break on the water. So, and I do a lot of sailing, and so a lot of times I'm out there at night, and so if it's going to break, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen at 2:00 in the morning.
Yep.
So that's why you always got to be prepared for things. So, but
that's interesting. It's funny. I've never been in the sailboating world.
Mm-hmm.
I just have never been around anybody, and I have total respect for it. My father, when he was growing up, spent a lot of time on Long Beach Island and sailed Hobie Cats all the time. Cool. He worked at Harvey Cedar's Bible study right there.
Yeah.
And so he ran, was part of like the sailing camp there
Sure.
and stuff like that. And so I've always had a lot of respect for it, just never been around it.
Yeah.
And last year I was in, actually we'll be going back in a week to California. It's kind of a crazy story, but I'm fascinated with marine life. That's part of my life.
You mean with like fish and stuff? Okay.
Fish.
I mean, you own a marina, so that's what I thought you meant. Okay.
Well, we travel the world. Growing up,
marine life is cool.
Growing up, before we had boat racing, we had our main trips, and we would take our pleasure boat. We had a 34 Scarab Super Sport.
Nice.
And we would take that up to Bar Harbor, Maine, and go watch the whales.
How great is that?
Every year, that's what we would do, and I just fell in love with that.
It's an amazing experience that you had that.
Yeah, and what's cool is sometimes I get people that want to come up to us about boat racing and like bash me over what we do to the wildlife. And I have to slow them down.
What do you do to wildlife?
Well, I have to slow them down and explain to them that I don't know if you understand this, but I have a deep passion for marine wildlife, and I would never let anything happen.
Yeah.
And to date, I don't know of any incidents that have ever happened with race boats and major marine life. But anyway, so we were going to California, and we were going there to get on a boat in San Diego, which was going to take us down to Mexico, do our passport stuff, and then shoot out to Guadalupe Island, which is 230 miles off the coast of Mexico, and cage dive with great whites.
Huh.
And
Awesome.
Unfortunately, COVID shut that down.
Yeah.
But we decided to do the trip anyway. And so we spent the 2 weeks traveling California. I have never seen anything so beautiful in my life. The coastline of California is to die for. But
and you have a lot of wildlife out there, too.
Wildlife,
beautiful,
unbelievable. I am blown away with what you can see in one day, let alone 2 weeks. But what I was also blown away by is their sailing culture. So the whole time I was there, I am used to. I don't think a day has ever gone by where I didn't hear a big block fire up.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. That's
yeah.
been my life forever. So we're walking around in California, and I'm like, jonesing for something cool.
Give me a sound.
Give me a sound.
How about a Harley or something? Something, some kind of noise.
And so I was kind of having this conversation with my mom and my aunt, and as somebody was walking by, we were standing in front of a whale watching place, and next door is like the world's largest sailing catamaran or something, right? Racing catamaran, sorry. And so they hear me kind of say that, and they go, well, you just don't know what you're looking at. And they start explaining to me this sailboat that we're looking at. Now, to me, it just looks like a giant ship in a bottle.
How old was it? Do you know?
I don't.
But it's an older one.
It's old.
Okay,
yeah.
cool. Okay.
And so they're kind of walking me through it, and I was blown away by they're saying this runs 35 to 40 miles an hour. It's enormous. It's got to be 66, 67 feet long. 2 or 3 of the big masts. And I just was blown away because, you would think that people in my world look at that and go, nah.
Yeah.
But that looks challenging.
Yeah, it is challenging, and I don't know what boat that was, but any boat that says that 25 to 30 knots is moving, really, really moving. I mean, in my sailboat, 7 or 8 knots, man, I'm cooking, right?
Boogie.
So the sails are proper. I'm well balanced. I got the wind coming off my beam, and man, I am just feeling good. Okay, I've sailed a lot, in different areas. This January, I sailed with a guy named John Kretschmer. He sailed around the Horn in one of the smallest boats in the early 80s. And he's someone that if you wanted to learn how to sail in night and passages, you go and you basically, I sailed with them for 8 days. So we sailed almost down to Venezuela from St. Thomas and then turned back and came back.
Wow.
And so everything you can imagine you learned on that sailboat.
Right.
Like I said, when things, safety is the most important thing, but when things go wrong, it's usually at night. And so storms can come up and everything else. You don't really see them coming. You basically hear them, but you don't really see them coming. So, I mean, sailing is a great thing. You want to talk about wildlife also. We have it right here in New Jersey.
Yeah, we do.
I sailed to Block Island. That's a 24-hour sail. And I must have seen, if I say 20 turtles, it was at least 20 turtles.
Right.
And I mean, they are beautiful out in the ocean. And what I did see, and it's one of the reasons why I outlawed these balloons, is people releasing all these balloons.
Oh, thank you.
What happens
I didn't know you did that.
Yeah, I did that because I saw about 40 of those balloons hanging out there, and it's not good. I mean, the one time I sailed from Bermuda to Long Island, and I was crewing on a boat, bringing it back for somebody, and like all you saw were these balloons out there, and of course, what happens? The animals, the fish, they look at that, it's food, and they eat it, and then they swallow it. And that's it. They can't eat anything after that, and they die after a while. So, so we got to stop with the release of these balloons, the plastic balloons. It's not good. And and I'm also the person who said no to straws, plastic straws in my town, and I'll tell you why. In other towns, you don't have the water, river, lakes, and stuff like that, or the ocean. In my town, we do. So I would have like cleanups, and we would go around and clean up all around the lake and everything else. And people would come and help out. It was really great. And what do you think I'm picking up? Straws and cans and straws and anything that was plastic. And, it's not good. That bothers the fish and stuff like that. And
right.
So that was just something that I did as well.
Well, and then you hear people, they say, well, what's the big deal? You just recycle the plastic. I mean, if it made it to the bin, right?
Yeah.
But then at the end of the day, I mean, there's all these videos of where does your recycling really go?
It goes nowhere now because there is no market. So the last 5 years, your newspapers, your plastic, your bottles, there's really no place to go. And I think that's where America needs to pick up and get a couple companies to start recycling properly. We kept sending all our stuff to China.
Right.
China says we don't want it anymore. Right. And so now it's kind of dead.
Well, and the hard truth of that is we would send it to China, which would just wind up in the ocean anyway.
Sure. And then they would recycle it and send it back to us. And so, it's just it's silly. But this year, when I was a kid, the water was gray, okay, because they dumped all the everything that came out of New York City came out only about 10 miles off the coast, and they dumped it, okay. There's a huge, and it still is, it's a huge dumping area out there. And so the water was not that great. It was not that clean. Now, the ocean around here is beautiful. I mean, when I was a kid, I never saw a dolphin. There was no dolphins. Now there's dolphins all over the place. You go out, anytime you go out in a boat, you're definitely going to see a dolphin or dolphins, tons of dolphins, and that's amazing. And I was out sailing early in the spring, and a whale almost hit my boat. I mean,
really?
I was like, Jesus, look at that. I haven't seen, it was this big brown thing coming straight toward the boat. You want to talk about scared. I was like, what is that?
Oh, we live for that.
Yeah, of course, right? And all of a sudden it came behind the boat and it just came up and the crown. It was amazing. Yeah. I mean, I've never seen that before, and that was, so I'm here to tell you that our ocean's in good shape. It is. I think the fishing is good. The fishing's coming back. And, just to see, whenever you see dolphins, you just know it's clean. And then the bait fish, forget it. When I sailed down Long Island Sound and then around down East River and then around Sandy Hook and down, I've never seen so much bait fish. So it's out there. And the other day, I have a little 17-foot Montauk Boston Whaler. It's a great boat, and it's fun. And so I took my wife up to Belmar, and we're out there, and all of a sudden I said, "That's a shark." Because see, there's a huge difference.
Yeah, oh yeah.
This is a dolphin. This is a shark, and when that moves and that tail moves like that, it's a little scary. Yep. It's a little scary. I go, oh look, a shark! I stop the boat. I go, look, honey, there's a shark. She says, okay, that's good. Let's go. I go, no, let's take a picture of it. No, let's go. So we had to go, but it was nice. That was only like a couple weeks ago. I mean, that's you wouldn't see that years ago.
No.
So I'm really happy. I think everything is really looking good out there.
Well, and I don't know who's to who to whose credit it is, but there's a lot of really cool funds and programs going on right now.
Sure.
I live in Tuckerton, and so the bay that I boat on is the Great Bay, and so in our bay, you could get out of a boat at any time when I was a kid, anywhere in the bay, and grab a handful of clams.
Sure. And
in the last 10 years, it has been completely decimated.
Oh, is that right?
There's no clams. There's nothing to be had.
Yeah.
Well, I was at a marina getting fuel in the boat, and I seen just the biggest pile of oyster shells I've ever seen in my life, right? And I'm like, what the hell is that about? So they let me into, there's this whole aid or grant program, and you dump these shells, and they help filter the water, and they clean the water. And
it's really big.
Yeah, and I guess that was the job the clams and the mussels and the oysters would do.
Clean the water.
Right, and so they're making an effort to clean up the bay. Yeah. They're reseeding the bay, and I just think it's great that the government is taking notice to this, because there's not only livelihoods on the line, but it's just important to not destroy that stuff.
Well, you know who did that? That really, usually government doesn't do anything until they're really pressured into doing it, and it takes time. But the Clean Barnegat Bay, is that what it is?
That's one of them, yeah.
Yeah, well, they are the group that's been pushing big time to help get Barnegat Bay back to where it was before. And really what happened a lot, they helped pass legislation because a lot of people were out seeding their lawns and stuff like that. And if you ride up and down, the runoff was amazing, and it's literally killing the Barnegat Bay. And so they passed legislation to reduce that. So that's really worked out well. And then I went to some kind of ribbon cutting, and right at the brick bridge over here, the Manlocan Bridge, for the group that is doing the clams or whatever it is, but they got something going on there, and they're really trying to bring that back. So that there's a lot of programs that are going on, but the Clean Barnegat Bay or Barnegat Bay group, I'm trying to think. Well, the woman who runs that, her husband's a fisherman, Britt Wenzel. So Brick I went to school with, and his wife I went to school with as well. She runs like a Clean Barnegat Bay, and they're just doing an amazing job. She does an amazing job, and basically she gets. She basically educates the public officials, who later on say, okay, we really need to take hold of this and do the right thing. Here in this area, from Brick all the way up north and south, it's $8 billion a year when it comes to basically raising funds for we have like tourism. I mean, it's $8 billion industry. So if if your water's not clean and you got problems with pollution, then people are not going to come down. So you got to make sure that you take care of that first. But no, we're turning the corner, I think, and I think that you need to make sure that we continue to do that.
Yeah.
So it was really funny as a Republican. Like, what do you mean you're outlawing straws? What are you doing? And I said, yeah, listen, in 1972, it's really funny how the Democrats. I'll talk Democrat Republican for a second. How the Democrats have taken issues that they shouldn't. Republicans should be making sure that the environment is really clean. There's ways of doing it. So I think there's issues there that Republicans really need to step up. And I think what you see now, Republicans here in Ocean County, especially at the county freeholder positions, they're starting to say, hey, we really need to worry about the Barnegat Bay. So I'm happy to see that.
Yeah.
But
I've always been interested in, like, I have a few friends I hang out with quite a bit that are, they're a bit more political than I am, but I talk with them a lot. And the big thing over the last couple of years has been the whole two-party system and how it doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, the problem is that years ago there was always compromise, okay, in politics. You have an idea. I like half your idea. Okay, so maybe we'll work on that. Nowadays, you have an idea. I don't like your idea, so that's my team. Now it's a love-hate thing, and that's what's wrong with politics today, and it's not getting any better.
No,
it's not good.
It's actually getting worse.
It's getting
at a
worse.
rapid rate,
yeah.
and I think one day I do believe in the the tear down of the two-party system. I don't know how that'll happen, but I think eventually there will be an option that makes a little more sense. Like how you're saying it's funny to be a Republican and then ban the plastic. Like, you shouldn't feel that way.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to feel that way. You should. You were elected into your position to serve your people, and you did. To the best of your ability, to the best of your knowledge, and that there should be no shame in that. There's zero.
No, you're right, and I had Governor Murphy. A lot of people don't like him. I think he's a great guy. I don't agree with his policies, but I do like him as a person. And he came here. One of the first things he did, becoming a governor, was we signed a bill against offshore drilling off our coast. I mean, we don't want. This is New Jersey. This is our tourism. We do not want oil being drilled 5, 10 miles, 15, 20 miles off our shore.
No, it's horrible.
So I mean that would have been horrible. So I know in this area, Congressman Chris Smith's a great guy, and he's working really hard about that and make sure it doesn't happen. So
right.
Yeah, but you work with Republicans and Democrats. You got to go on the other side of the aisle, and that's for many years I was a lobbyist, and so I have relationships on both sides of the aisle. And I don't really care whether you're R&D. If you want to do the right thing, it's good. So some Republicans who don't live near, like I said, oceans and lakes and rivers and stuff like that, or streams, they don't understand why I did what I did. But the bottom line is I did because I see it every day,
right?
And there's no reason for it. So, if we can make a stand, we did, and it worked out well.
It's such an interesting thing. It's politics seem like a very simple thing when you think about it, but it's not.
No, it's not.
It's such a it's almost like you're when they say wearing a lot of hats, like you're wearing a lot of hats, man. It's,
well, like you're dealing with everyone's agenda. Okay, so you have an agenda, I have an agenda, and this is how it's going to be. But I have to get you to sign on to it. So like my council, right? I had all kinds of ideas to do certain things. Sometimes they were on board, and that was up to me to get them on board. And sometimes they said, no, we just don't want to be on board. And that's it. So you have to have people. Everyone has to have a say in something. And then at the end of the day, if you have the votes to push your agenda, great. But everything's like an agenda, and every day is different, especially when you're dealing with the public. One day they love you, the next day they hate you.
right.
I know that for a fact.
Yeah. And you know what?
Why, I don't know, but that's
it's interesting that, and I don't know this to be true. It's just a feeling I get. When I was a kid, obviously I had no interest in politics, as many kids don't.
Sure.
But I now look back and I see one glaring difference, and it's fortitude. Like today's politicians don't seem to have the fortitude of yesterday's. And it's crazy how fast they fold, how fast they flip from one side to the other. Why can't we just stand on what we believe in, and the best ideas rise to the top? I mean, why? It seems to be like it makes your job impossible.
No, it does make it impossible. But see, so my job as a local mayor, that's a real contact sport. See, because you see these people at the store,
right?
Right. Hey, Mayor, what
so
about
it's not
this?
so much the charade.
No. They come knock on your door,
right?
And they text you and call you at 2:00 in the morning. That's really something. Okay, so you're involved. You have to be involved. Now, when you become a county, like now they call them commissioners. Okay. So a county commissioner or state legislator or a governor, or then you get a congressman or United States senator. You don't have contact with them. You don't really contact them. They don't know who you are, and so they're out doing their thing. They're just trying to advance their agenda, and they're trying to raise money so they can be elected. And so that's the problem. That's where they lose that connection with what they're there for. I believe every person's there for, at least in the beginning, to do the right thing, and then after that, it kind of falls to the wayside.
Right.
Why I have no
Which is
idea.
just the unfortunate nature of human beings.
and
it has nothing to do even with politics.
no,
That's
it's
just humans.
It's just human beings. You give somebody like a little power, and all of a sudden, poof, their head goes crazy, and all of a sudden they got a little power, and they got their little area, and that's it. But yeah, I hate to say politics or the politicians, because it's like It's like
It's
lawyers.
it's a broad stroke.
It's like a bad name, right?
Yeah.
It's like hazardous waste,
Right.
Politicians. So I like to say public officials because I think they got into it, to help the public, and they are public officials. But and not all are bad, and some are trying, but DC is a mess.
It is.
It's a mess, and if we have, and we kind of have that in all the states as well, but. I don't like it when one party rules everything. That's not good.
Right.
Okay. And so that's important, especially in D.C. if you have Republican, Democrats, kind of equalizing things out. But it doesn't usually work out that way. So, but I think I know most people are just about had it with again, everything's about getting on a team.
Right.
Let's talk about masks for a second. All of a sudden now. Are you a mask person, or are you against masks? All of a sudden, like, I hate you because you don't want to wear a mask, or I hate you because you do want to wear a mask. It doesn't have to be that way. You want to wear a mask, like wear a mask. Everyone has their issues and everyone has their beliefs, and it should be that way. But when it gets to everyone has to pick a side these days, and it's getting to be a little tiring.
Yeah, and I think when it gets to that point, I think it's a lot of other things too.
Oh.
You have to remember. 90% of Americans are not happy.
No.
Happiness is such a weird thing to define because it comes in such odd shapes and sizes. Like you look at the average American is probably at a job they don't want to be at. They probably have a family that they have no idea how to handle. They probably have issues that they've created for themselves in life that whether they've addressed it with themselves or not, and they're in these dark places. And now you add social media. And then you take social media and you weaponize it and you turn half the country against the other. And then you start this, whatever side you were on for the fact-checking thing and the this and the that. There is so many things that people have to wade their way through now that we never had before. Yeah. Before, I would just talk to you and say, are you wearing this mask or not? And you would go, I don't know, are you? And then we would just go on about our day. Yeah. There was not 97. Listen, there's family members that don't speak to each other anymore over these Facebook arguments.
Well, social media is a killer of all things.
It's horrible.
And I saw that when I ran for office. There was things being said about me and printed, and I'm like, really? I know I didn't say that.
It's that easy now.
But it's that easy.
Yeah.
And and so as soon as you, and there's a simple rule in life and a simple rule in politics, when you start explaining something, you're losing that argument. You've already lost it, okay? So a lot of times there's things that happen to me or other people. You see people, well, I didn't say that. What I really said was this. Well, that's lost. No one cares about that. That's already gone. That's yesterday's news. Social media, everything's changing within seconds, So, and that's how people get their news these days. No one reads the newspapers anymore. They do. They're online, and they're reading, and then a lot of those reporters sometimes are putting out not only the news, but they're putting out their opinion. That's not good.
Yeah.
That's not the fact, and that's not good. And then people don't believe, and that's what you've seen in the last 7 or 8 years. The lack of belief in government. I think that's what's really hurt us.
I think that we're going to turn a corner with it, and I'll tell you why. So a major reason why I have this podcast is because I was a huge fan of Joe Rogan's podcast, and that's just the facts of it. And
he's great, isn't he?
I'm a huge fan. I always have been.
A lot of people don't know it. He was a very funny guy. He was a stand-up comedian, and I think he was on a couple shows like 80s and early 90s. And he was a funny guy. He was on a sitcom for many, many years. And so it's amazing.
News radio.
Yeah, that's right.
And so
I like that.
I was a huge fan of Rogan because I'm a fight fan. If I had to pick a sport to put my heart in, it would be MMA. And before that, football, just because there wasn't MMA. And so I knew him from that, and I never knew he had a podcast. And actually, the way I got turned on to it was, I had gotten turned on to it a little earlier, but the way I really fell in love with it was he had Tulsi Gabbard on his show, who was a presidential candidate for the DNC, and which
I like her.
I do too, a lot.
Yeah,
and
she was in the military.
Yes, and so she was on the show with Jocko Willink, who's another just powerhouse figure, and so I believe he was a Green Beret or a Ranger. I'm gonna mess that up, but I'm not super familiar with Jocko. But so anyway, I know that Jocko is a huge Republican Trump supporter at the time. I know that Tulsi is trying to fight for the Democrat Party's nod, and she's getting nowhere, and it's just so
You know
weird
why
to
she didn't
me.
get anywhere? Because a lot of times she took Republican positions.
Yeah.
Because she, not only was she in the military, but she was kind of using her head basically, not
Yeah.
just saying, well, everyone's in the box, all right? Oh, you're a Democrat, you got to vote this way. You're Republican, you have to vote this way. Years ago there was conservative Republicans, moderate Republicans, and even like in Texas they call them blue dogs. They're conservative Democrats,
Right.
Not, and then there's some liberal Democrats. So everyone had their own little boxes. Now there's only two boxes.
Yep.
And that's not good.
No. And so I watched that, and then later on he had Bernie Sanders on.
Yeah.
And now I'm as transparent as the day is long. I am the opposite of a Bernie supporter.
Of course.
And but I watched it because one thing that was like the weirdest thing in the world to me was I've never heard a politician talk for longer than 30 seconds.
Yeah.
It's always like this quick, like there's 15 other people on the stage. You got 20 seconds, go.
Yeah.
Right? And now all of a sudden, Rogan just gave you 4 hours.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you know what? I got to do this. I just sat and I just listened to the whole thing. And would I ever vote for Bernie Sanders now? No, absolutely not. But I have a much better idea of where the guy was coming from.
Well, I mean, look, the guy, if I stood up in a room and I said the things that Bernie Sanders said, they say, get this guy out of here, right?
Yeah.
So when I heard him first speak, first of all, he was a Burlington, Vermont mayor, did a great job there, and I think he was a senator. And he's independent, but he sits in the caucus of the Democrats right down in D.C. So when I first heard him, this was 2016 when he first ran, I was like, you got to be kidding me. This guy wants free this, free. There's no way. And you know what? Almost half the country said, oh, we love Bernie Sanders. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
He was giving everything away, raising. You know what? The funny thing is, when there's over 1 million more Democrats in the state of New Jersey than Republicans. When Governor Murphy, when he was running the first time, what he was pushing for was, I'm going to raise your taxes, and I'm going to promise you like legal marijuana. That was his two big issues.
Right.
And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And people love him. And like I said, I do like the guy. His policies, I don't. But he's always been very, very friendly to me in my town of Point Pleasant Beach.
But the problem with that is, what the marijuana thing is about.
It's money.
So to me, right, I don't ever, and now listen, Murphy is a governor, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so very coveted position, but I never want to hear from a presidential candidate their stance on marijuana. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear your stance on free college. I don't want to hear your stance on any of this. I want to hear, how are we going to fix the Middle East? I want to hear, how are we going to address real-time problems? I don't want my president, which is pretty abysmal at the moment, in my opinion, but you see this sea of just nonsense, and that term political theater and charades, and it is horrible. I don't want this. So I'm watching this podcast that Rogan's doing with Tulsi Gabbard, and I'm like falling out of my chair. I'm like, finally, I'm not a Democrat, but I'm watching this Democrat.
Yeah, but you shouldn't watch it, because what she was saying most of the time, she was making a lot of sense. And if you remember, I don't know if you watched the Democratic debates, she was like, just killing it. But but everyone sitting there as a Democrat saying, who is this traitor? Why is she talking like this? And here's a person who served this country. So she knew what she was talking about.
And also, I think they already knew that Kamala was who was being groomed.
Yeah.
And so her destruction of Kamala Harris was, I mean, you couldn't have painted that picture or made that movie.
It wasn't hard to do.
Oh, my goodness.
But
I mean, she slaughtered her. And when she got the nod, I remember thinking to myself, like, how did a woman in Tulsi Gabbard go on stage in front of her own party and dismantle their clear champion?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Who has the gall to do that? And then on top of that, how did that person win? You know what I mean?
It just goes to show you there's this country, and it may be changing again. See, you got to look at what happens. So you have a Republican there maybe 4 to 8 years, and you have a Democrat 4 to 8 years, and so that's how politics goes sometimes. So they're like, okay, we'll see what you got to do. I think people were little for Trump. They're like, okay, enough. And
there was a pullback there.
It was a huge pullback, and it was his damn tweeting. If he stopped that and stopped, putting people down and just led. I mean, his policies were good, but the way he treated people, people got a little tired of that.
Yeah.
And then the whole tweeting, they were sick of it.
It's
People,
no secret that we're Trump supporters. Our slogan behind you is "Make offshore great again."
Yeah. And it's great, but he should have had another 4 years if he just stopped the nonsense.
And I agree with you 100%. And as a Trump supporter, I can't tell you how many countless moments I'd be sitting at the dinner table with my old man and be like, "This doesn't embarrass you." This isn't embarrassing. Like the guy has so much. He had more potential and talent in his pinky finger than anyone around him.
You know why? Because he said he was going to do something. He did it.
Right.
See, that's the difference between. That's why people loved him.
But the problem was he treated everybody like it was his company.
Yeah.
And that's where he went wrong. Yeah. And unfortunately, because now look at where we are.
Well, we're in bad shape right now. We're and I'm not just talking about as a Republican. I'm talking about what I see on TV and hear on the radio. And I try to get my news from everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting. You go to a Fox and you go to a CNN, and there's two totally different views on what someone could say. It could be Biden, it could be anybody. And you're like, wow, I didn't get that. And so it's amazing where the country is right now. Because again, we're in this. What team are you on? And how, what do you believe in? So we got to stop that. But I think, there's always a tipping point in everything, okay? I think we're in a tipping point, and that's why they basically Trump won in 2016. And I think we're at a tipping point another 3 more years. Okay, we got to do something else here.
Well, and to my point about the podcast thing, the thing that I see changing is the amount of information that we're going to be given. Mm-hmm. I see that changing. I see not only is there a lack of trust in our government, but there's an even bigger lack of trust in our media. And so people are starting to turn to other things, and truthfully, those other things are much better than the media. Yeah. And Hun, could you look up? Have you ever heard of Crystal Ball and Sagar? They have a television show. Can you look up Crystal and Sagar? They used to run a show called The Hill. I think they just left, and they started their own show.
But you know what you're talking about is unfiltered information.
Unfiltered.
So here you're sitting with me, right?
Unfiltered, and
I'm
they're
not scripted. It is what it is.
Right, and they're not pushing a narrative. So Crystal, and I'm going to get this wrong. I believe Crystal is the Democrat of the two, and Sagar is the Republican of the two. Mm-hmm. They're best friends, and they're on totally opposite ends of the spectrum.
Where are they from?
I'm not 100% sure. Did you find it yet? Her name's literally Crystal Ball.
It's spelled with a K, that's why.
Yeah, I believe so. But it's just, I watch them constantly because if anything isn't factual, one calls the other. And I don't even mean factual like it might be the truth, but if you can't back it up, they call each other out. And it's just great because that's the media that we're all needing right now. Yeah. We need a breath of fresh air from the last 6 years.
Well, and it's going to be bad for 3 years. And then hopefully we'll have somebody else who is going to speak the truth and basically follow through on it.
And I'll tell you what scares me more than anything is these calls for impeachment. Because I think what could be worse than right now
we don't need that
is what's behind them. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we don't need it right now. And there's just some people, again, so the way I look at issues is very simple. I like to call myself a moderate Republican. So every issue I look at it differently. So what happens is when you have a conservative Republican, he or she looks at that issue as a conservative person, okay? Right. If you have a liberal Democrat, that's how they look at those issues. Those two people are running this country right now.
Right.
And that's a problem.
Yeah.
There is no more moderate. There is no more in the middle. How can we work together? Maybe we can compromise a little bit. The conservatives will not compromise with the liberals and vice versa. And that's who's running. That's who's in leadership positions right now. You just look around the country.
Yeah.
Whether it's governors in different states, or the president, or in Congress, and like our legislature, it's just all Democrats. Right now in New Jersey, you have a Democratic Assembly, a Senate, and then the governor. And so basically, they don't tell the Republicans when they're going to talk about the budget.
Right.
So that's not good.
No.
And that was never like that. It was. We've lost respect for people, and I think that's the problem. So when we get that back, I think we'll be okay.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping that the tipping point has come, and I hope that moving forward, it's going to take a couple of years because nothing's going to change right now.
No.
Nothing's going to change.
Now we're in gridlock for a while.
Yeah, we are in gridlock for a while, and whether it's the vaccine, anti-vaxxer, or who wants the vaccine, doesn't want a vaccine, and you can't mandate this, and I kind of understand that too, because you don't want government mandating anything. But at the same time, government mandated a bunch of things that really saved a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Polio shot. I got my little shot on my arm, and I remember back when they said, you had to have your seatbelt on when you're going to get a ticket. People went nuts. Guess what? It saved a lot of lives. So now
Right.
you don't hear anymore. And is it that one person that maybe if they didn't have the seatbelt on, they would have lived? I'll put the seatbelt on.
Yeah.
And that's what government's there is to recommend and push certain things that for the safety of the people. But it's not. But see, everyone thinks it's a conspiracy. Now it's the bad thing. Like how can you say that? Why would you say that? Why are you telling me what to do? It's not the end of the world.
Well, and whose fault is that? That's the media's fault.
Of course.
And the problem is, I think that's never going to change until we come up with a way to fix that. And the scary thing is, okay, and one thing I hated, and I don't hate many things, when they censored Trump, when they took his Twitter, when they took his Facebook, here's the problem. If they can do that to him, they can do that to anybody.
That's a problem.
And that is censorship, and that is not what this country stands for. And the other problem with it is, okay, so then how do you fix your media problem? How do you put a chokehold on that and get it back to reality? Well, in my mind, it doesn't need censorship. It needs an audit. Mm-hmm. I think every story that should be published should have a whole backstory of where they acquired the information and where they enough of these moles and the whistleblower, which never exists.
Yeah. And you know what? Who is it? Come on out and tell us.
Right. What are you scared of? Are you telling the truth?
No.
And so I think there's a lot of things that have to change, but I think we're moving in the right direction.
I think what you're seeing, and especially in the last few weeks, you had. And I'll say what it is. It was a liberal media, and they push a narrative, and they push Biden, they push the Democratic policies and stuff, and they're starting to see things backfire a little bit. And they're saying, what did we do here? Maybe we went a little too far, because that was the hate for Trump. So no matter what they could have, they hated Trump so much.
And they didn't know that when half the country was burning down.
Well,
isn't it insane how fast people forget?
Man,
I mean, it's like we were
it was only a year ago,
We were talking about trying to travel around the country just for picking stuff, like go buy a boat or go just do normal stuff. I wasn't driving down 95 or getting stuck in one of those traffic jams or fighting for my life and I couldn't believe that the government was just allowing that to happen.
Yeah.
And it's like when you look at that and boil it all the way down and put it in a nutshell, it's how far out of touch they are with what real people deal with.
Yeah.
And how one spark that to you wasn't a big deal or to you it lit a forest fire, man.
Yeah.
And now look at where we're at.
Well, again, I think it was the hatred of Trump so much that they're like, man, whatever happens, let's get him out and we'll change things. And they just let things happen, and they shouldn't have. We had some real we have some real problems.
We do, but
we got to take care of them.
You know what? Until there's a clear and obvious answer,
well,
this is where we're going to be, man.
That's where we're going to be.
Because you ain't going to get people to agree on anything.
I tell people all the time, get out and vote.
Yep.
I mean, you look at what happened in Georgia. They were so upset that they didn't come out and vote. They were so upset thinking that Trump won that they didn't want to come out and vote for their two senators, the Republican senators. And so I guess they were sending a message. Well, guess what? The two Democrats won, and now the Senate is basically majority Senate, like Democrat. And so now they're like, oh, well, we didn't mean that. Well, yeah, well, you did. And you knew what you were doing, and you voted.
Yeah.
You didn't get out and vote. And now there's a real problem.
Yeah.
Now you have two houses that are all Democrat. I think that's going to change. I know it's going to change.
It's going to change. I think
the midterms will change. I think the Republicans will take over.
Right.
And we'll probably pick up a bunch of seats in Congress. So
I think if you look at the standing of the country right now, like from where we're sitting at the moment, there's no way these Democrats are going to continue to sweep. I mean, look at the nonsense that's going on.
They know it. They know it because you always look at your leadership. I mean, listen, the president, just like the governor, just like the mayor, in the town or the state or the country, is the leader of the party, right? So now they're seeing someone who's just falling apart.
Right.
I mean, big time.
I'm sorry, guys. Just 1 second. Could you pull your mic up just a little closer?
Sure.
I'm losing you.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank
All
you.
right. And you're seeing a country that is such bad leadership. So it's not even like the president himself. It's who he has around him. I mean, this whole fiasco in Afghanistan. Me personally, I would have kept 2,500 people there because everything was working. I talked to a person who trained most of the people at the United States embassies. It's a good friend of mine, lives here in Point Beach. And he says, listen, the only people who were dying were terrorists.
Right.
We haven't had an American injured
In years.
in years. But they were out there training, and they were out there policing, let's say. But they were military. But you had a country that was working, a real government, water, electricity, right? Women, children, educated, jobs, no more. I can't believe we walked away. We gave it back to the Taliban.
Yeah.
This is terrible.
And I hate to sound like the blonde hair, blue-eyed Captain America here, but I got to think that our troops being there was a symbol of hope. I mean,
Sure.
How could they continue to strive to change their reality when the tool that was given to them to change it is leaving? I mean, to me, if we spend 20 years there, we spent 20 years too many. But we've spent 20 years there. So you have to finish the job.
Yeah, but we're also in other parts of this world.
Right.
We have military in parts of the world that we basically had a war, then afterwards we kept people there just to keep an eye on what's going on. We're not going to be there now. Terrorists are going to grow like crazy. America is right now, we are worse than we were before 9/11.
Yeah,
and
much worse.
Much worse.
With a wide open southern border.
Because before, you had really you had the Al Qaeda, and you had funding from Osama bin Laden. Now, what's really happening right now over there, and even in Africa, you have the Chinese government coming in. They're building roads and bridges, and they're really financing things. All natural resources are taking over, and so China has a 20, 30-year plan. Here in America,
And they always have.
Always.
Yeah.
and it's growing, and they're just doing exactly what they're doing, nice and quietly. People don't really know, but to leave the Taliban in charge, these people don't know how to run a country. Mm-hmm. Winter's going to be coming up soon. They don't know how to run electric companies and gas companies or whatever, however they heat their homes and roads and bridges. I mean, this is going to be horrible. And then I'll tell you what really upsets me. About 2 weeks before Kabul basically collapsed, there was these women being interviewed. I want to be a doctor. These children, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer. I want to do this. Wonderful dreams, right? And they're going to school, doing very, very well. Not anymore. And not one women's group has come out and said anything.
No.
Not one.
Where's Me Too?
Not one. And these women, I can't even tell you what's going to happen to these women.
Mm-hmm. Just for Western ideas.
Death will be a good thing for them.
Yep.
This is going to be horrible. And not one women's group has come out and said anything.
No.
And you would have thought
but they'll expend the energy to make sure that the Navy SEALs say they or them now.
Well, right.
And it's
just
what
silly
are we
stuff.
doing?
I mean, come on. But for instance, Oprah Winfrey, should be going crazy saying she should have been calling that president saying, hey, Biden, I got you in there. I raised funds for you. You let the Taliban run Afghanistan. What happened for 20 years? We basically America built schools and roads and bridges, and we gave these children an opportunity to really do well, and they were grateful for that. And now we left them there, and the Taliban's taken over. You got to be kidding me! And all the Taliban is just a bunch of thugs. Well, that's all they are.
And rewind 4 years, and I'm by no means championing Trump or I happen to be a Trump supporter, but look at his policy as far as how far were we going to be pushed. Okay, that to me is a very interesting thing that they don't talk about much. Like when you talk about the quality of somebody's demeanor. Okay, like what makes somebody great, right? Mm-hmm. In my opinion, if you had to put your finger on one thing, it wasn't his business savvy. It wasn't his how to crunch the numbers. It wasn't his. It was a bend but don't break attitude, okay? And he would bend, but he wasn't going to break, okay? So his stance in the Middle East, okay, in 4 years of his presidency, there was not one issue, okay? Why? And if there was, you don't think it would have been reported all over the news waves?
Listen,
Okay.
he said, don't mess around with America. And what's happening? America was being told what to do by the Taliban.
I'll give you a direct quote from President Trump, number 45. If you fuck with us, we will fuck with you.
Yeah.
A direct quote, okay? And that was his policy. Now, fast forward, we're here, okay? What happened? What happened? There was a Nobel Peace Prize up for, he was up for a Nobel Peace Prize for which really wasn't any result of his own, which unfortunately, but whatever was, I think that was Jared Kushner or whoever was over there brokering those deals. But, I'm not saying we were at the promised land. I'm not even saying we were in the driveway, but we were on the road. We were going down the road. And now, I mean, we're 50 years ago like this.
No, we are in really bad shape. The United States looks very weak, and we are always a giver. We give. We're the first country to be out there to help whatever, anything. Give, military, protection, and what we did. I've been looking at the news for the last couple of weeks. I just can't believe it. And then 13 of our heroes die. They're out there patting people down. They were told something was going to happen. And you said, okay, go out there and pat people down. Thousands of people lined up in. I don't know if you've seen it. It's like a trench. Okay,
Yeah.
That's where water runs. The road's here, and then the airport, and they were all lined up. And our military's down there patting people down and let them in. Look at their papers. No way. Bad. For the military to do what they did. The planning. I mean, come on.
Well, and that's the other thing.
They know better than this.
Everybody wants to point their finger at Biden, but not for nothing. He didn't make that call.
Well, he made a bunch of calls. He overruled a couple people. It's going to come out that, they were told, hey, we should do this, and this. He says, nope, we're out. And I understand where Trump and Biden are saying, let's get out. It's 20 years. But we didn't get out in other countries, and now we just let the Taliban take over again.
Right.
And you know what? You could say whatever you want. Let them do whatever they want. No. They're coming here.
Yeah.
See, we haven't had anything in 20 years. We haven't had any bad events. There's a reason for that. Fight the fight over there, not here.
Right.
And now we've just we let out 5,000 prisoners.
Yeah.
How about Obama with the guy who's the head of the Taliban right now? That was his bow.
He was at Gitmo.
Yeah. He was at Gitmo. They let him go. It was the deal that how much money did they give? And for
over $1 billion
for that one guy. What was it, Bo something or?
Oh yeah, that was something astronomical.
Yeah, it was some kind of a trade.
Yeah,
and then you talk to the military guys that were in his unit. It says, no way, he left the unit. He walked away, and then 2 people died going to get him, trying to save him. And so now this guy's a hero, and he comes back to America. And Biden, Obama got him back, and I forget how much money it was. It was like a crate load.
Yeah, and it had to be cash. Right. And now here's the other thing. When did we start negotiating with terrorists?
We don't negotiate. We're not supposed to.
There's a reason why we champion our service members, man, because they are unbelievable. And, not for nothing, but how is nobody looking at the situation in the Middle East and then also looking at the southern border and going, maybe this is adding up to be a big problem?
We have a big problem. And Biden,
But make sure you wear your mask.
Yeah.
And get your vaccination.
But also, we're saying one thing and we're letting other people do something else. So we have a major problem with the southern border. I mean, it's you talk to some of the people who work there on a day to day, even living in the area, like we've never seen it like this. This is not good. So, he has a lot of problems on his hand.
I know the wall seemed like a ridiculous thing when it first came out, but aren't you seeing it now? I mean, aren't people looking around going, maybe that wall was a smart thing?
Listen, see, this is why people hate politicians, because years ago, Biden, Kamala Harris, Clinton, Obama, the wall's great. We need the wall. We need the wall. Trump said, let's do a wall. They go, oh, no, it's a bad thing.
Right.
And so now the wall's a bad thing. No,
because
the wall works.
And what was it going to cost? I believe the figure was $1 billion, right? That was what was reported. We just left 10 times that in Afghanistan.
Yeah, we left it there.
Left it there because
No.
it doesn't matter, right? But the $1 billion it would have took to finish the wall.
Well,
I mean, come on.
If I'm a military guy, which I'm not, and I praise them big time. If I'm watching the news and I see one of these Taliban people in Kabul with an army jacket on, with our guns, I would be out of my mind.
How about the Apache flying around with the dead body tied to it?
I heard that's fake.
It
I
could
don't know.
be. But at this point, who knows?
And I'm upset about they left dogs behind, but I heard
See,
that's fake too.
And
I
I've
don't
heard,
know.
I've heard that. See, that's what I mean.
You
Who
don't know.
knows?
You don't know.
Who
You
knows?
don't know. See, that's social media. Social media is, and again, because you don't know really who to trust when you're watching the news. So you try to go to some social media, but at the same time, you can make things up as social media too. So I've seen that too. So it's just,
It's crazy.
all I ask people is just turn on different stations, and then kind of, the truth is probably in the middle somewhere.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I have an aunt that if she's watching this, is pulling her hair out right now, and she is as conservative Republican as a conservative Republican gets.
So she's going crazy at me right now. Like, oh my God.
No. She's going crazy at me too, and I just try to remind her all the time, like, just take a deep breath, like, just live life, because it's going to pass you by, and you're going to be worrying about things that you can't change.
You know what? We've become a very angry nation.
Yeah,
we're angry.
Just breathe.
I mean, people
race a boat.
Yeah, go.
Go have some fun.
Do something. Play with your dog, for God's sakes. I mean, people who were running on the Capitol, that was horrible, and they're angry.
That was disgusting.
I'm like they look like, I'm like, and of course they're all white. I'm like, what the hell are you angry about?
The whole thing is disgusting.
What's going on? No one's bothering you. Just cut it out.
I understood that they thought that the election was stolen, and listen, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. Who knows?
Every election has issues.
Right.
Even in a little town.
I think this
15 people voted. Like, they're not even from our town, but somebody filled out their thing. Okay, you deal with it. It happens all the time. It is what it is. But for these people to be down there and to be like, going after these people, like, wanting to kill and like jumping up on the wall to get into the Capitol, they're angry. I don't know where they get. I don't know why they're so angry, but it's just crazy.
And it's gross because there's so many different ways to look at that day. There's so many different ways. Like, I'm probably one of the few Trump supporters I know that will hold him accountable for that day. That I really think that there was no other outcome. What did you think was going to happen? What were you just trying to shove it up their ass? I mean,
yeah, no, I don't know, because I saw what he said. Yeah, they're down there in the Capitol. They're going to put in this new president, whatever. Right. So he made a couple comments, but he didn't say go down there and rush the Capitol.
No.
And so
he said he was going to I'll meet you down there.
Yeah,
he was going to go down there, and we were going to chant. And
you know what? We're all going to walk down there. But what I saw was something totally different, outrageous for America.
And also, it kind of seemed like the people that were doing it didn't seem like the same people that were there for the rally, if you ask me. And it didn't.
Well, that's something too.
And then cops just opened the gates and let them in the building. And to me, it's like, why even waste your time trying to figure it out?
Well, what bothers me is that supposedly our military, the mayor of the town, the Capitol Police, they were told, something's going to happen here. So I think the people who showed up to, voice their concerns and walk to the Capitol was one group. And then I think there was another group that said, we're gonna get in there, we're gonna do what we can. So you had that group, and I think some of the people were like so angry, like, yeah, let me go too, because you talk to so many people, like, geez, I was just
sure.
I was going with I didn't know what was going on.
No doubt. And there was definitely a monkey see, monkey do thing there. And, And then also, you chalk it up to the typical knee-jerk reaction as well. The Democrats sent these, antagonizers to, and I'm like, come on. It could have very well been angry Republicans. But look at the size of the group. Look at those pictures. What was there? 1,500 people? There was over 1 million people in D.C. The actions of those 1,500 people did not speak to what the rest of the people were there for.
Those people that did that were they're
no.
I don't even know what to even talk to.
And then
I don't know what to even say about that.
And then it's like, how far do you go? And then you look at some of the backgrounds of some of these people and the whole QAnon thing and how silly that was.
That's crazy stuff.
And you know what truth is about QAnon? I've known about QAnon since 2000 and 13, 14.
I don't know. I don't know anything about it.
I've known about it forever. It was always like a totally bogus conspiracy theory website. It was where all the foxholes led, all the rabbit holes led to.
Well, is that the same group that says like September 11th really never happened? It was the government that did, or something like that.
Right.
It's crazy stuff.
Listen, it's and they were always that. And then all of a sudden, it turned into this the news was reporting QAnon things, and I'm like, what are you doing? This is you ever talk to a little kid and they're like, and I like the red truck, but the purple tires on my crayon. They have no idea what they're talking. Yeah. That's who we're taking our advice from.
I don't know anything about them.
Great kid, but he has no idea what he's talking about. You know what I mean? Why are we taking advice from him?
We're gonna let him play in the corner.
Crazy, man, crazy.
No, it's really. First of all, it's funny how this has gone from
it happens.
Boat racing to politics.
You know what the beautiful thing about podcasting is? It doesn't matter.
You can I love it.
You go anywhere you want.
No, this is great.
What time is it?
It is 6:30.
6:30? All right, we're in. We're 2.5 hours in.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
That was crazy how fast that goes, right?
That was really quick.
You got anybody special you want to talk to real quick, or anything you want to promote real quick?
No, I tell you, I really think you should have my friend like a John Parks on.
I would love to.
John is he's like you.
I love John. I know John very well.
Encyclopedia of all the racers and I forget who he was telling me who was it the owner of the no it wasn't the owner of the Apache. I forget what it was. A guy who just died. He was 90-some years old, and he came up with these certain kind of designs of the boat, and it was
Fabio Bussi.
No. It was I'll think of it in a second. But John was just telling me about this guy that he first helped out as like a 14-year-old kid, with the boat when he came to the Point Beach. And
Billy Martin.
No. I do know that name too, though. But he was on he helped a couple teams. But this one guy, he invented something, and I don't know, was it catamaran or something? I don't know, but. Anyway, it was. He has a lot of stories. He was also talking about drug running and stuff like that. But he says I'll tell you about it later on. But some crazy stuff, huh?
Yeah, man.
I didn't know about all that stuff. I kind of knew I knew some things over the years, but
I'm like in the middle of that whole thing. It's like being involved as I am now, when I see things like that Netflix thing, the cocaine.
Yeah, well, he told me about that. I need to watch that.
It's as entertaining as could be.
Yeah.
It's probably pretty factual.
Yeah.
But as somebody who currently upholds the sport, I hate the way it makes us look.
Yeah, that's not good.
Because
I don't know if anyone really even knows about all that stuff.
I think it's hilarious. Yeah. I love looking back. I mean, the stories are crazy.
Was that more like the 80s, this stuff? Yeah.
70s, 80s.
70s,
and
80s,
you look at guys like Ben Kramer, when he went to jail, he had one of his cronies flew a helicopter into the jail, tried to take off with Ben, except all the prisoners jumped on. And
that's crazy stuff. I can't wait to see this.
Great stories. Yeah. But the thing is, it's a very different sport today than it was then. And unfortunately, when stuff like that comes out, when we go to some of these new opportunities and we get you're those guys. And it's like, no, man, that was so long ago.
Those guys a long time ago, I wouldn't worry about that. I don't.
We still get it.
Oh, you do?
Oh, we still get it, yeah.
I do remember that, when the first year we were having some meetings and people come on, they're going to do drugs and they're going to drink and they're going to get in fights and they're really, really crazy people. And I was like, I hope not. And I go, Smitty, man, and then we had to come up with all right, no cooking out in the pits and stuff like that. And, because people who live in that area were worried about it. But it worked out great. You guys are fantastic.
No, they're all good.
Yeah.
And they police themselves.
Yeah.
They do.
That's right.
They police themselves.
Because you know what? I think that happened. Somebody pulled in with a camper or something. They sort of, no, you can't cook here, man.
Yep.
And so it worked.
Somebody gets out of line at the bar, 10 of us drag them out of there.
It's fine. It's fine.
We handle ourselves.
Yeah. Well, who doesn't get kind of kicked out of the bar every once in a while?
It happens. It happens.
It's all good. It's all good.
Well,
but, this is great.
Thank you so much, man.
I really appreciate it.
I appreciate the opportunity to have you in here.
It was very nice meeting you.
It was nice meeting you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
The heart and soul here. She runs everything.
That's it. And real quick, everybody watching Offshore Live, be sure to clear your calendars. September 8th through the 12th, Morehead City. You see my hat? Jack's Waterfront Bar, Morehead City, Jeff McCann. He's one of the greatest guys around. You'll love him. Come down, check out the boat races. We got a great event planned. There's an air show on Sunday, 2 days of racing, Friday and Sunday. Come check us out. You won't be disappointed. Former Mayor Reid.
Fantastic.
Thank you, sir.
I'd like to go. Hey, like, did you get money for that?
No.
You better.
No.
See, I got to help you out. You got to market, man. I mean, you're doing
I don't
this
know
great.
if you
I
ever
love the
met-
hat. I'm looking at the hat. This hat looks
I don't
great.
know if you ever met Mr. Jeff McCann, but
Yeah.
he's a team player for sure. I don't need his money.
that's great. Yeah, no, so that's great. So what kind of air show are you going to have down there?
We got it. So I don't know the type of airplane.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
This guy did this for us last year.
Uh-huh.
And I got to tell you, it was way cooler than
Yeah.
the boat race.
Oh, yeah.
It's just one guy, one plane,
Yeah.
and it's a little sound just
Yeah.
inside the ocean, and it's not very wide.
Right.
And this guy was doing these knife edge runs where the wing is only about a foot off the
Oh,
water.
that's cool stuff.
But the spectator boats
Yeah.
are
Right
pretty
there?
tight, and he went right down through
Wow.
them, and
Wow,
he
wow,
goes
wow.
way up in the air and shuts it off.
Yeah, it's
and
pretty
fires
cool.
it up when it gets down low. And
well, see, again, that is family entertainment.
Yeah.
So people will come and watch the air show and then watch you guys out in the water. That's great family entertainment. And that was the one thing. And just real quick, to go back. What I wanted to do was bring family entertainment back to Point Pleasant Beach, and that's what was so exciting.
That's exactly what you did.
when I was there, my first time walking the street, and I walked it with my mom and my brother, my brothers, matter of fact. It brought back a lot of memories, and it was good for my mom to see all that. She really was somebody who did a lot of stuff for the town, and she was really excited about it. And she went up to a couple of the boats. She recognized them and stuff, and so that was really fun. But it was all, we had people with me who they were taking pictures, and they were young kids, and some of the drivers, hey, come on, you want to get in a seat? And they put them in a seat.
Oh,
and
yeah.
everything. So
Yeah.
that's what it was all about.
Yep.
So you're going to turn on, these younger kids are going to be racers.
That's what we call the farm club.
Well, that's the farm club.
Yep.
That's what it's all about.
Starting new racers.
You got me into it, so there you go.
Awesome.
All right, great. This is great. Thank you so much.
Mr.
You're
Reid, thank you,
welcome.
sir.
Yeah.
See you guys next time.